We got an interesting development in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse. It may not seem like that big of a deal, but I think it strikes the heart of the conservative argument against Kyle. No, hear me out. Kyle Rittenhouse has a gun charge. People were arguing that he was too young to have a weapon. And now the legal team has filed a motion to have those charges dismissed. And it may be the case that that charge is bunk anyway. If that one is out, then there's literally no argument against Kyle Rittenhouse in any way. Clearly, it was self-defense. Many people on the left have even said, well, I shouldn't say many people, but some people on the left have actually admitted that it was self-defense, or at least begrudgingly said it was some kind of conflict. Although the left is adamant about locking this guy up. In my opinion, if this gun charge goes out, I'm not a lawyer. We'll talk to one, but it seems like the only way he'd actually get convicted at this point is if it's political, which very well may be the case. But I've heard arguments from conservatives the gun charge was the one that made sense. Now it may actually be, it may be out. We'll see how politics plays a role in this. But joining us today is former lawyer for Kyle Rittenhouse, John Pierce, and you're also the founder of the NCLU.
That's right, the National Constitutional Law Union, the NCLU, and that's nclu.com. And the best way to think of it is essentially the ACLU for the rest of us, or what the ACLU used to say that it does.
Yeah, and that's sad.
Yeah, no, it is. It's kind of, it's tragic, and there's a vacuum, and that's why I stepped into it, because, the only way that we protect our Constitution in the long run, and get out of this, sort of tyrannical, downward spiral that we're in, is to fight very hard for people whose constitutional rights are violated. And make no mistake, even though, I'm a conservative, this is not a conservative organization. It is not a Republican organization. It's what the ACLU used to say that they did,
right?
Which was to protect everyone's constitutional rights, and that's what we plan to do.
Right on. And we also have a lot to talk about in terms of January 6th as well.
Yes, sir. So I believe that I represent by far most of the more January 6th defendants than any other lawyer in the country. I believe the count right now is at 13 and growing. There's a lot of folks that need help, and a lot to talk about on that case.
We got to go through all that stuff. That's important stuff. Right on.
Absolutely.
We got Ian chilling.
Jeez, yeah. Hey, Ian Crossland, man. What's up?
How you doing, Ian?
John. Thanks for coming, man.
Absolutely, and I do have to say congratulations to everyone on the Cassandra Fairbanks acquisition. Cassandra, I consider Cassandra essentially the best journalist in the country right now. Amazing person, and she just does such great work. So it's amazing to see you all team up.
Yeah, she's like literally, well, not literally a rock star, but very close.
In my mind, she's there.
Yeah.
I'll say this of Cassandra. On Twitter, she certainly is feisty, but her reporting is top notch. It's straightforward. It is, I would say, it's usually very straightforward and well-researched and well-sourced.
Everything I see Cassandra write, to me looks spot on. She is feisty on Twitter. You kind of have to be feisty on Twitter. When you get hit, you kind of have to hit back 10 times harder, or else you're going to get eaten up. So I kind of like it.
Right on.
Oh, yeah. I'm in the corner as well, as you have come to expect me to be. I'm very delighted because we have an air conditioner now, and that means none of us are going to be shiny and sweating anymore.
Yeah, the fans are gone.
Quiet. Oh man,
we got a
so
special
good.
AC unit installed because we foolishly put the studio in the highest point of the house.
The AC is working for sure.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
Amazing, and it's one of these ultra quiet units. But we're moving into a new studio probably in the next month or so. It's going to be way better.
Yeah.
The table is going to be attached to the ceiling.
Still looks like you have a little bit of work to do, but it does look like it has a ton
They
of
just started
potential.
today.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the table is going to be attached to the ceiling. How about that?
I think it's very cool.
Yeah.
And if it falls, it makes for a great episode.
That's
It
right.
won't be able to fall. It'll be part of the ceiling.
I guess ceilings typically don't fall. So
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a secret room in there. Is that right?
No, what are you talking about?
Were you messing with me?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, Ian? There's no secret room.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a secret if that was the case.
Yeah.
I know nothing about any.
I think
such
we just
room
rip
that
the
I saw.
wall out and have it be double the size.
Ian's talking about a small crawl space where the cat used to break into.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
think
how they
Tim
got up
lied to me
here.
earlier today.
No.
What?
Oh, I thought you were messing with me earlier.
No, there's like a crawl space where the AC unit is. The cat used to break into.
Yeah.
Yeah, she used to come up.
All
here.
right.
Anyway.
Tim,
No
let's
cats.
go deep.
All right, hey, before we get started, check this out. We got a sponsor. We got Virtual Shield over at surfinginternetsafe.com. Go there, and you can get a VPN, a virtual private network service, for 50% off for life. It's amazing because when you go there through my link, brought to you by Timcast, it says, you get that special discount. Now, a VPN helps keep your private data safe. As you're browsing the web, I don't know, maybe many of you have used like the Brave browser. It'll show you all of the people trying to track you and steal your information. And those are the people who are asking for it. Well, not only will a VPN protect you from that, it'll protect you from a good amount of the people who are trying to surreptitiously steal your data, be it hackers, creepy corporations, big tech, or even nefarious government actors. Of course, it's not perfect, but it is that basic layer of defense. Here's the way I explain it. We don't expect anybody to break into our house. You still lock your doors and windows, right? Right. So go to surfinginternetsafe.com. You can get 50% off for life. It's only $2.50 per month. And if you go there now, they say you can actually get 24 months of online security from the world's easiest and fastest VPN for $59.88. It's actually 77% off when you buy 2 years up. Plus, you get 50% off all add-ons and other great discounts on their other plans. So again, surfinginternetsafe.com. I love you guys, Virtual Shield. They've been a sponsor of mine going back to my very early days on YouTube. Years and years ago, they've sponsored me like every step of the way. So that is one of the companies that have allowed us to grow to this point. So you guys rock. Don't forget, though, we are growing. Go to timcast.com, become a member, and you can help support the very important journalism that we do here, like this one where it says Young Turks mocked as the shills for the establishment they are. If you're not a fan of the Young Turks, you'll probably appreciate that segment, but we're usually not that bombastic. But as John noted, we have Cassandra Fairbanks, who's writing articles. We just hired a ton of people. We have a bunch more writers. We're going to have a paranormal mysteries kind of unexplained show coming up with a new editor coming on to produce that show. And as a member, you'll get access to that as well. But don't forget, you can also like this video right now, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Let's jump into this first story. It's from Newsweek. Kyle Rittenhouse's lawyer asked judge to dismiss charge he was too young to have a gun. Rittenhouse's attorney filed a motion asking the judge to dismiss the charge that he was too young to possess a gun under Wisconsin's law, arguing that Rittenhouse's assault-style rifle doesn't fall under the definition of the prohibited short-barreled shotguns and rifles. Mark Richards also filed several other arguments, including a dismissal of a video from July 2020 that prosecutors filed motions last week asking a judge to allow as evidence. Prosecutors said the video shows Rittenhouse hitting a teenage girl in the back of Kenosha's waterfront, but Richards argued the altercation is irrelevant to the case. Richards has similarly argued that against prosecutors claiming Rittenhouse has an affiliation with the Proud Boys, which is I love how they just say this, is a far-right extremist group. Yeah, whatever. Okay, well, we're hanging out with John Pierce. Now, you are not a lawyer for Rittenhouse anymore.
That is correct.
But you were telling me about this gun charge. Is one of the reasons we want to talk about it. You said it was total BS.
It's nonsense.
But now just to give some people context who might not be familiar, they're charging him with what? With murder, right?
There are multiple homicide charges. I mean, it's been a while since I've looked at the actual charges, but yes.
For those that, for whatever reason, don't know what happened, there was ongoing rioting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Kyle Rittenhouse was there. He had a rifle. He was chased by some men. We've actually had Richie McGinnis witness. Actually, we've had Richie and a bunch of other people who are on the ground and witnesses to what happened. Richie laid out everything experienced. Richie's actually the journalist who took off his shirt, right? Trying to render aid to one of the guys who got shot. He watched it all. And the gist of the story was that several of the rioters had set a dumpster on fire, were pushing it towards a gas station. Kyle or someone from his group put the fire out, enraging many of the rioters. Kyle was chased. As he was running away, he heard a gunshot because a man standing in the street fired a gun. Actually, initially, people thought the gun was fired up into the air, but there are some reports now that it was actually fired towards them. Either way, Kyle hears the shot, turns around. When this guy lunges for his gun, Kyle fires in self-defense. The guy goes down. Kyle then runs to go get help. He's chased by someone saying, "What happened?" He says, on video, you see this. He says, "I'm going to get the police." Someone yells something about "get him." That's the guy. He's then chased, knocked to the ground, and some guy runs up with a skateboard, tries to grab the gun, and Kyle fires upward and it goes into his heart. That guy goes down. He's dead.
Well, he hit him in the skull with the skateboard, which right then could have killed Kyle, first of all.
So the guy with the board actually,
right here with the sharp edge of his skateboard. He was under full-scale assault the entire time.
And the next guy who came up had a gun.
Absolutely.
He had a gun and tried grabbing the gun from Kyle and took 223 to the bicep. I believe it was his right bicep.
That was his right bicep.
And it vaporized.
He had a Glock that he was about literally a half a second from bringing down to execute Kyle while Kyle was sitting on the street. Kyle simply fired that shot a half a second before he got executed by that person.
The guy was holding the gun.
The guy was holding the gun.
And the guy actually said, I want to be careful here because of the litigation around this, but my understanding, I could be wrong, he actually said that he should have shot him. Like later in an activist rally, he said something to that effect.
I think it was at his hospital room when he was talking to one of his friends. He said something to the effect that his only regret was that he didn't shoot him and empty his entire magazine into Kyle.
That right there Kyle was he was a local resident. People say he crossed state lines. Yeah, he lived 20 miles away. It's a suburb.
He literally lived right across.
He worked there.
Yes, he worked in the Kenosha area. Yeah,
he worked in Kenosha,
and he was there the night before. He did not cross state lines with any weapon. That's nonsense.
Right. So what ends up happening now is you have the left saying he killed these activists. He was hunting them down. He's a white supremacist. It's absurd.
It's absurd.
And anybody who goes to the evidence knows that's not true. But there were many conservatives saying, but he wasn't supposed to have a gun. He's underage. Now we're hearing that they want to get that. The current lawyers want to get that dismissed, and you're saying it was BS anyway. So let's break that down. What do you mean by that?
That charge is absolute nonsense. Mark Richards is a terrific lawyer. I'm proud to say that I'm the one that got him, kind of retained on that case. He's doing a great job. He will do a great job. Wisconsin is an open carry state. The type of AR-15 that Kyle had that night, which is a long barrel AR-15, is completely legal in that state. It's legal for Kyle to have had possession of it at that age. If that rifle had been shorter, potentially there may have been an argument under that statute that there's an issue. Also, if I recall correctly, there's a very strong argument. I think Mark made it in this motion that that statute relates to various sort of hunting regulations that have nothing to do with that case. That charge should be dismissed. It never should have been brought. None of these charges should have been brought. But that charge should go away. Mark Richards is absolutely correct that charge should be dismissed.
It was interesting seeing even a lot of conservatives on Twitter mentioning that maybe some people said he shouldn't have had the gun, and they're going to get him because if in the process of committing one crime someone dies, you get charged for that. And then people said you're allowed, even if you're not allowed to have the gun, picking up a gun in self-defense or having one in self-defense is exempt. There's a lot of arguments about it, but I guess none of it matters because the law itself doesn't even apply to what Kyle was doing.
That law does not apply to that weapon. It does not apply in the context of what happened. The charge should not have been brought. This is a totally political persecution. It's not even close. This case needs to be dropped. If somehow, some way, these political, Soros-funded prosecutors in Kenosha, Wisconsin, get some kind of conviction against Kyle Rittenhouse, it will be a travesty, and it will go a long way towards eviscerating the right of self-defense that all of us have.
I agree. Now, I've said in the past, though, so this looks like any rational argument that a reasonable person might presume is out the window. We had a leftist on who said he actually this guy Destiny, he got kicked out of the Twitch partner program for saying that it was the clearest case of self-defense he had ever seen. And this is a leftist who said this. No. This is a guy we had in here, and he was defending critical race theory and social justice and all this stuff. We clearly disagreed, but he was like, "Oh, come on, if you're being honest, you saw the video, you know it was self-defense."
It's in fact virtually a perfect case of self-defense because on every element of self-defense, it's not just that he meets the standard. He exceeds it by orders of magnitude.
Like he was running away.
Like
Like
people were trying to kill him at every moment. Like they were trying to take his rifle and shoot him with it. Like the individual you mentioned literally had a Glock in his hand that he was bringing down.
Who later expressed it was his desire to just unload into the guy. And someone fired first. It's mind-blowing.
Absolutely. From behind him, in his direction, they attempted to ambush him. And when Kyle turned around, Joseph Rosenbaum was coming at him at full speed and was literally right on top of him, lunging for the barrel of the weapon, as Richie has noted.
This is crazy. That it's kind of how did it end up that he's being charged with these things?
Look, this is why the George Soroses of the world are very, very dangerous. Prosecutors, local and federal, have extraordinary discretion. George Soros, for all of his flaws, is no idiot, and he has gone a long way in places like Philadelphia and Los Angeles with this Gascon guy out there.
Isn't Chesa Bowden as well?
I believe that's right.
Kim Fox.
Yeah, it's a very, very dangerous. Physically dangerous thing for the citizens of these cities because they are essentially choosing outright and announcing that they're not going to be prosecuting all manner of crimes. For example, in San Francisco and California, essentially they've said they will not prosecute shoplifting crimes if it's a value of under like $900. So
did you see the Neiman Marcus video?
I did not.
It's just like 10 people running out of the building full speed, carrying stacks of stuff.
Well, that's $9,000 worth of stuff without prosecution.
Maybe you can call it a conspiracy, but no one's enforcing it. There's another video that just started going viral where it's people walking and filling up bags casually with no masks on, just filling them up and then just walking out the door.
It's not rocket science to anticipate the impact that these sorts of policies and these sorts of prosecutors will have on the complete breakdown of law and order in these cities. And it's happening. And, regular Americans see that it's happening. And the left may underestimate regular Americans. But I believe they're going to get punished severely at the ballot box as a result of this.
Now, after Chauvin, I said Kyle's going to get life. That's what I said. After I watched what happened with Chauvin, because you had a few very important points there, that the defense tried getting the venue changed because of the riots, and the judge said everybody in Minnesota knows who this guy is. There's no venue where he can go, and that to me is astounding because it was an admission that there would be no fair trial. In which case is dismissed, free to go, because we don't lock people up unless they get a fair trial, unless we go through due process. When that happened, then you saw the jurors being led into the courthouse with armed men to protect them from the extremists that have been attacking Brooklyn Heights. I think it was our Brooklyn Center.
Brooklyn Center.
Yeah. Clearly, these people were being influenced, and they even admitted it after the fact, saying that they were scared.
Well, you had Maxine Waters show up right in the middle of it, demanding that everything continued to burn if there wasn't the quote-unquote right, verdict. You had, Joe Biden, who's advocating for the quote-unquote correct or right verdict, and his excuse was that, well, jury deliberations had started, so therefore they're sequestered, so that won't impact things. I mean, these are things that are fundamental. I mean, the criminal and civil jury system in the United States is so fundamental to our freedoms. It goes back, to the Magna Carta, etc.
Yeah.
The jury is along with sheriffs at different times and different circumstances. The jury is the last bastion of protection for people who are wrongfully charged. I will say I'm a jury trial lawyer. That's what I do. I have immense faith in juries. That Chauvin trial was very concerning, but Kyle is totally innocent, and I have complete faith that jury is going to find it the right way.
But you think, there's going to be riots. The jury is going to be sitting there staring, saying, "Who wants to be the martyr?" They're going to say, "Not me."
I have complete faith that jury is going to come back with the right verdict. The case is so clear. I don't see a Wisconsin, an American jury coming back with any other result.
The big difference between that and Chauvin is with Chauvin, there was big arguments about the amount of force, whether or not Chauvin should have kept his knee on his back or neck or whichever you perceived it as, that he should have rendered aid immediately when Floyd stopped moving. So there's arguments.
Well, and look, of course, with Chauvin, you have the 800-pound gorilla of the 9-minute video that is shown over and over and over again. Right? That's an extremely it's a tough video. It's a tough video to watch, and it's a tough piece of evidence to overcome. Kind of the converse, I think you have with Kyle, which is it's probably the first, criminal trial in history where it's literally as if you were watching the Super Bowl and there were 100 different angles of high definition video of everything that was happening that you can sync up. There is simply no way around the conclusion that there was 100% perfect self-defense.
Yeah, but you could still get a jury that just says, "I'm not falling on that sword."
I have complete faith in Mark Richards and that jury.
All right. Yeah. I think it'll be particularly interesting. But let's jump to this next subject, sure. January 6th, because we're talking about George Floyd. Somebody tweeted something about conservatives and the double standard. There was some conservative who said something about, why don't we know who killed Ashli Babbitt? We should have this information released immediately. With George Floyd, we got this big show trial in the press. And then someone said, how are conservatives not understanding the differences between George Floyd and Ashli Babbitt? They were like, it's a double standard that they don't care about Floyd, but they only care about her because they're racist. And I said, Ashli Babbitt wasn't chewing on a speedball behind the wheel of a car and then actively resisting police. I'm not saying that, George Floyd deserved or any of that should have happened, but Ashli Babbitt stood up and looked through a window and took a bullet to the neck, right?
So look, I mean, there are some, so first of all, I pray for Ashli Babbitt's family, and I pray for them to obtain the justice that they deserve. There's all kinds of strange things going on with everything related to January 6th. So specifically with respect to what you just mentioned, Was she shot in the stomach? Was she shot in the shoulder? Was she shot in the neck? There are basically 3 different stories that have come out, from the medical examiner, from the media, et cetera. The chief of the Capitol Police, who either resigned or was ousted a couple days after the event, a few weeks after his firing or his resignation, wrote a 8-page letter. I think his name is Stephen Sunland. Wrote an 8-page letter to Nancy Pelosi, essentially, writing about what happened that day and sort of an after-action review. There is no mention whatsoever of the Ashli Babbitt shooting in that letter.
Wow.
Whatsoever. I mean, why is that? How's that possible? Now as to the but I will say, look, the truth is going to come out about everything that happened on January 6th. It is going to take some time, but the true January 6th commission is going to be what happens in those Article 3 federal courtrooms whenever we try these cases. I represent 13 of these people, and I will tell you that we are taking every single one of these cases to trial. We are going to expose exactly what happened that day, how it happened, who's behind it, what happened, et cetera. With respect to the double standard, obviously I need to be a little bit circumspect about the way I talk about the particular cases that I'm a lawyer in, and juries will decide, what the outcome of those cases. But what a lot of Americans are saying, and I think it's undeniable and it's self-evident, is that where are the pre-dawn raids to round up the hundreds and hundreds of people, the Antifa folks who burned down Kenosha and Portland and Minneapolis and Los Angeles, and in effect held a federal courthouse under siege in Portland for over 100 days, including attempting, not very effectively, but attempting to burn it down.
Well, they broke in several times.
Oh,
They used some kind of welding tool to cut through the locks.
Yeah, and they tried to burn it down when human beings were inside.
Yep.
Okay. So, we have pre-dawn raids with AR-15s where there are 3-year-olds in the house, with folks like, 73-year-old pastors who are Vietnam veterans with no criminal record. Where is the priority to protect like regular American cities? And I think that it's just self-evident, and a lot of Americans see that there seems to be a dual standard of justice right now. And that is think about how dangerous a thing that is. A fundamental precept of the American system, the American idea, the American Constitution, is that there is equal justice under the law. When the faith in that idea starts to crumble, and in fact, I would say starts to be shattered, as it is right now, that's a very, very dangerous thing for a free society and a constitutional republic to hold together for very long.
I watch rich people just walk on law. I mean, when Hillary Clinton's email scandal dropped, she was a Secretary of State and was involved in getting Sidney Blumenthal in Libya, like some of the most criminal actions of getting us into a war in Libya, directly against Obama's direct order that she can't work with Sidney Blumenthal. She worked with him anyway.
She destroyed public records and got away with it.
Classified. Including
Right.
classified.
So equal protection under the law.
I'm sorry, it was
I don't
something
buy
about
it.
yoga or whatever.
Yeah, they were talking about yoga and birthday parties, and of course, as you probably noticed, the journalist who essentially broke the story of Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill on the tarmac has been suicided.
The journalist who broke the story, this one, I don't think people look too much into this. There was an anchor, he reported the story. He wrote on that story for years.
Yeah.
He wrote a book about it. I don't look too much into that. It doesn't make sense for me. That would be a conspiracy in any way. I think sometimes people, you know what I think? We talked about this on the show. Here's a guy who breaks this story, turns out to be one of the biggest stories. He then rides on that for a year or so, telling everybody, "Oh, I'm the guy who reported it," but he's just a guy who talked on TV about it.
Yeah.
He writes a book about it. He then does a book tour about it. 2 years go by, dude's got nothing left. I think. I don't think there's like, we're going to wait 6 years and then retaliate against him. No,
Yeah.
I think it's a guy who almost touched the sky, and then, with all due respect to his family and it's a sad story, but I just don't see it.
But
Look, obviously, I have no firsthand knowledge about it. I just do know there is a lengthy, count of deaths and suicides in the Clinton past.
I think that's all exaggerated.
Yep.
I've looked through so much of this idea of the Clinton stuff, and there's like a bunch of memes, and I'm like, there was one where it was like an accountant at a firm that once worked with the Clintons. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
The firm's got 3,000 employees or whatever. People really stretch it. What you got to be careful of is the confirmation bias in that This guy reported a story like six years ago, and then like, what are we supposed to assume that the Clintons like in 6 years' time we'll get our revenge and expose ourselves to massive risk for no reason? A bunch of these stories that come out about the Clintons are like strange, circuitous connections that I think are just silly.
But the email thing is not. That's
the
a
email
blatant
thing's legit.
crime. It was a crime that she committed that she wasn't charged for. And Loretta Lynch was basically investigating that, right? She was in charge. She was the attorney general or something at the time. And then Bill Clinton went and met with her and had a conversation off the record that people could see happening. And then the charges got dropped. Is that what it was, or the investigation didn't go forward?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, James Comey held a very sort of famous or infamous, press conference in which he went through sort of 15 minutes of talking about how sort of reckless and negligent and bad this was about the emails, and then sort of surprisingly at the end sort of dropped the bomb that it didn't rise to the level of her being prosecuted or whatever. But that's not something that FBI directors do.
Right.
They have an investigation. They make a recommendation to the Department of Justice, as to the evidence, and then that proceeds. That was odd, to say the least.
Oh yeah, I mean, 2016 was one heck of a weird year.
Yeah.
It's like reality just broke. A lot of people like to mention that the CERN Large Hadron Collider went off,
right?
And then we get the whole universe is in disarray. But I want to mention something too.
Sure.
A lot of people don't understand. I think there's a lot of people who want to believe in a lot of conspiracies. You'll see like a meme photo and they'll list a bunch of names and then draw lines and connect them. Okay, I actually go through those names and I look up the records of the individual where they worked, and I've looked into a lot of those memes, and I'm like, it's just. You could draw this. You could do that to almost any person in a high profile position. There's this new one going around where the San Francisco Gay Men's Choir, they recorded this video where they said, "We're coming for your children," and it's a creepy video. I think it's really creepy and purposefully antagonistic, like to an extreme degree, where they started getting serious hate. They took the video down, but 4chan's coming out and digging up their names from the choir and then connecting them to the sex offender list. I also started. I was like, okay, let's see like if some of these things are true. And they do these memes, they show the name, they connect the line, and then it's not legitimate. It's not real. Far be it from me to say that 4chan's got it wrong, but they certainly don't have enough evidence yet.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful about these meme things that go around, because I've tried to dig up stuff on this, and it's just not there.
Look, I used to be, one of these people that whenever you would watch, the Oliver Stone movie JFK, I'd think, well, that's interesting, but I mean, like, come on, was there really anybody else besides Lee Harvey Oswald, right? I will just tell you that in light of the litigations I have been involved in the past, 4 to 5 years, with respect to representing George Papadopoulos and Carter Page, and Rudy Giuliani and Tulsi and Kyle and now January 6th. There's a lot of narratives that turn out to be just completely and totally fake, and they end up being just destroyed after a period of 3 or 4 months, whether it be the Russia hoax,
Exactly.
Or
Those are conspiracy theories too. That's the thing,
Yeah, and
unless you have the hard evidence that you can put out and you can definitively draw those lines.
Yeah.
I just say, okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I'm just in light of the things that I am, learning as a lawyer, probably most involved in the January 6th cases. And again, we'll let juries decide what happened there. There's just a lot of questions.
With respect to Ashli Babbitt, we still don't know the name of the individual who fired on her, who shot her.
Well, I mean, some people think that they know,
I've seen allegations, but nothing's been confirmed.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, they have not officially named the person who fired that shot. And why is that? I mean, where's the explanation for why that is?
I would say because as political imprisonment is a type of thing, so is political protection, and both.
Yeah, and the issue is, look, the issue is if this was kind of, imagine, if it was converse in terms of the politics. I don't think that
that guy would be strung up in DC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That name would not be,
his house would be burnt to the ground, his business
paraded.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Right.
They go after him like crazy. I mean, there was a report from the New York Times where the Portland rioters, where they're marching around, stopped at some guy's house and then started like yelling at him for him to come out. They threatened to burn down his home for simply waving an American flag. So of course we know if there was a bunch of, let's just call them pink hats, like that when they shut down the congressional building that one time and they occupied, or when they're banging on the doors of the Supreme Court trying to get the door open. If one of them took a hit, woof.
Well, it's also like look at the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings.
Right, banging on the doors.
They were trying to shut down that.
Yep.
They were trying to shut down that, and we're
insurrection.
And let me touch on the insurrection idea, okay? Because that just from a legal standpoint and a factual standpoint, I mean that is nonsense. Because it is. I mean, hear me out. Which is just that's an actual crime. I mean, insurrection is a crime.
Yeah.
And you can be sure.
Can you be charged with insurrection?
Absolutely.
And none of them have been charged with insurrection.
0.
Oh, okay.
So
such ridiculous theater,
so
man.
so you can be sure that if the federal prosecutors felt like the elements of the crime of insurrection were met, I'm confident out of 550 cases and counting, probably going up to close to 1,000 at some point, there would be some such charge.
For those that are listening and not watching, because we do the podcast, John held up a 0 sign. Yeah, just none. We saw the Capitol Police. They're expanding nationally.
I saw that.
I've heard some other rumors too, but just for now, it's like they're going to set up a couple offices. I have a soft prediction in that I think once they get all of the people who are actually in the Capitol, they're going to go after material support. They're going to be like, our mission isn't over. We got to track down these extremists who are providing material support for these individuals who engage in insurrection, blah, blah, blah.
It doesn't seem right now like there is much of an end in sight. For a little while there, it felt like, and I'm not sure if I felt like I heard this from the DOJ or from a prosecutor in a public hearing, but it kind of felt like they were preparing to wind down with respect to rounding folks up. That they might charge another 100 or so folks, and it might be 550, 600 that are charged. It seems like they're almost reinvigorated right now with respect to
They need this. They absolutely need this.
Well, nothing. Look, the country's obviously the country's not going very well with respect to inflation and with respect to foreign policy and with respect to all kinds of things. So there's a narrative that
we got an election year coming.
We do.
Republicans are predicted by many to sweep. I mean, I think even 538's already saying the Republicans are expected to take control of the House.
I would be. I'm not an expert.
Then they'll impeach Biden. No, they won't. They won't. Republicans are too weak.
I'm not an expert, political analyst. But I mean, the regular people in the middle of this country see what's going on every front. They all want a basic degree of law and order. They all don't want to see their gas prices go up to $10 or whatever it might go up to. They all want to feel like we do not live in a authoritarian surveillance state. And so I believe it's going to be a huge red wave in 2022.
Do you think the Republicans should impeach Joe Biden? Wasn't it Marjorie Taylor Greene? She was like, she introduced a bill to impeach him already.
Yeah, that I think that,
more than once.
Yeah, I think it'd be reckless to say at this point. I mean, here's the thing that's happening. It's bad in the last several years in this country, and this is what brought down the Roman Republic for sure. Is the weaponization of criminal law to attack political opponents. Because what happens is that becomes a vicious cycle that descends into violence and retribution very quickly, because the political pendulum will swing naturally.
What's the inverse, or what's the if Republicans don't fight back, then basically Democrats just keep wielding power unethically.
Well, look, Republicans have to fight back, and they metaphorically they have to fight back, and they have to fight back extremely hard on every front. And politics is a again metaphorically, politics is a street fight, and they have to be tough. I'm a lawyer. I'm a huge believer in the rule of law. I'm a huge believer in our constitutional republic, and in our Constitution. And I believe that the right, conservatives, have to do it in a proper way, because if it just goes back and forth with everybody just tossing out the Constitution and just using every possible weapon to destroy their political opponent, I mean, there will be no end to it.
Joe Biden lied about being involved in business dealings with his son.
Oh, I'm no fan.
There's photos of it.
I'm no fan of Joe Biden whatsoever.
There are photos of Joe Biden standing with Hunter Biden's business partners from Mexico. There's the communications. There's the witnesses. This is well above and beyond Trump. We can't enter this period where we're like, we have evidence that Joe Biden lied and was engaging in selling his name and power, but we're not going to impeach him because then we'd look like the Democrats for what they did to Trump unjustly.
Yeah, no, and make no mistake. When I say, sitting here right now, for me to advocate impeachment might be a little bit reckless. What I'm saying is, I haven't personally taken the time to look at the hard drive and to look at the actual evidence. Obviously I've heard a lot about that, and if the things that seem to be on the hard drive are accurate, which they seem to be, then yes, impeachment would absolutely be. It's
100%. Matt Taibbi dug into the Ukraine stuff. There were multiple, I think at least a dozen criminal investigations into Mykola Zlochevsky and Burisma, and Joe Biden got him shut down, tit for tat. If you want the money, you shut this down.
$1 billion.
They absolutely were going after Biden's interests. We know because of what was the name of the confidant for the Biden family guy who came out?
I don't remember his name.
Googly. No. Matt.
What was his name?
Some weird name.
Bubliano or Gugliano.
Bubliano or something like that.
Yeah.
Look, this confidant comes out and says,
and he seemed extremely credible, by the way.
Yeah. But outside of that, because obviously I can't remember the guy's name, I'll discount that bit of evidence. But when I was covering a lot of this, I was looking at international news sources, I was fact checking, I was looking into all of it. It is beyond a reasonable doubt. Zlochevsky flees the country. There's investigations into him. Biden says we got to get a new prosecutor because that one's corrupt, and he wasn't going after the corruption. The new prosecutor comes in. Burisma guy comes back to Ukraine. Investigation's over. You're free to go. Your money's been unlocked. Don't worry. Papa Biden came in and saved your butt. Donald Trump gets in. Dude flees to Monaco. It's like you got to be a special kind of dumb or liar. So we look at what Donald Trump was accused of. Please investigate this crime. We must impeach him. They impeach him over it. Yeah. Now we actually see the photographs because of the laptop where Joe Biden is standing with his son's business partners. What did he say to us? I have never talked to my son about any of this stuff. It is beyond a reasonable doubt based on the investigations that I've done. And there's still so much more evidence from that laptop that has not been released. I think Republicans first thing they should do is they could get in and just impeach the guy and then let it all lay out in court.
In the Senate trial.
If
I'm in Congress in 2022, I think there would be a very favorable ear coming from me on that front. So
Matt Taibbi is no conservative, and he wrote it. He investigated this and he said the claims that there were no investigation of this are just wrong. Like none of these people actually did any legwork. No, it's obvious. Mm-hmm. What did Twitter do with the laptop storage for an election?
That's where I was going to kind of go with this.
They're obviously lying.
Yeah, well, look, it's to the point where I think it's criminal, conspiracy that the big tech companies are involved in, likely with foreign powers, to decide to just cover these things up. I mean, for them to make the New York Post story about the laptop just go completely dark for whatever it was, a couple weeks or a month before the election. I mean,
a couple weeks after.
Yeah, what is that other than blatant interference with the election?
Domestic, that they're colluding with domestic powers. Would that also be criminal, or is that legal then because it's American CIA or whatever?
I got to tell you, it's not my field of expertise with respect to the law or anything. But what it certainly it's got to be in violation of some federal criminal statute for a private entity to intentionally try to cover some of that stuff up. What actually, as I speak out loud about it, I think one legal theory that has started to come to the fore, which I think is probably a good one, is that it's actually a campaign finance violation. Because and I think there have been lawsuits filed about this because they are, and again, I'm not a campaign finance expert, but certainly what it seems to be is them providing an in-kind contribution to the campaign that is, I assure you, was probably not reported, and it was probably worth.
I think it would be more criminal. Suppression is different from promotion. If they're promoting an ad about Biden for free, then you can argue they're giving them an in-kind donation. Suppressing negative news, That's something else. That is causing, I mean, you've got some civil torts there, I suppose, with harming the New York Post under false pretenses and defaming the New York Post. The New York Post should have sued for defamation when they said it was hacked materials. And the Post said repeatedly it was not hacked.
They absolutely should have. And obviously,
they still can, right? It's not been that long.
Yeah.
What's the statute of limitations?
It differs by jurisdiction. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 2 years.
They still got time.
Certainly at least a year. But like we talked about, I mean, people like James O'Keefe have started to step up and start to sue these companies. It's got to be those big organizations that have resources to do it, because regular Americans can't do it.
All right, so here's what we need. New York Post, why aren't you filing defamation against Facebook and Twitter for claiming that the materials you had were hacked, even though you stated several times they were not hacked materials? They lied to the public and they used it as a pretext to cause harm to your business. You've got clear damages in the amount of views you lost based on the size of the story and the percentage of suppression on the story. If they said they're suppressing it, file some kind of suit against them. Go in discovery. I want to see their algorithms. I want to know what percentage you were suppressed. Hey, make that information public. Then we'll know how much money you lost. Then we'll actually have a claim against them, or the people will actually get to see someone fighting back. Well, the New York Post hasn't done that. I don't know why. The other thing is, Joe Biden should be impeached. Just bring it on, Republicans. Win in 2022. First day, the first thing that should happen, they should rubber stamp that impeachment, send it to the Senate.
Hey, I'm not going to stand in the way of Joe Biden impeachment.
But they're gonna love it. They're gonna be like, oh no, now Kamala Harris is president.
There's that too. There's also the sort of.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens.
Well, there's also the 25th Amendment lurking in the background. There's obvious health issues that are lurking in the background.
Have you seen the photo of Lori Lightfoot meeting with Biden?
I'm not sure that I've.
She's got this look on her face of just like oh no, and some people were claiming like that look when people finally meet Biden, they realize this guy is broken. Like it's worse than we realized.
And I think it seems to have accelerated even since the inauguration. I mean, he's over there, traveling Europe. And I think he was giving a speech before the British military, and it's like literally a sentence can't be put together. That's.
He was able to say "Truden on a shot of pressure." I mean, that's a hard word for me to say.
What was the word again?
Truden and Nana Shabba de pressure. I had to try really hard to figure out how to say that word, and then
is that like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
He said it. Yeah. He said Truden on a Shabba de pressure. He also said Batacalf care
perfectly.
Yeah.
True international something under pressure.
I don't know.
I'm gonna have Truden on a shot of pressure.
I'd like to hear him rap.
Like,
he could probably rap pretty well. No, but
he could give Eminem a
yeah. You true and not a shot of pressure.
If
he didn't say that intentionally. That's the point.
If the New York
Except he
Post
wouldn't make it 9 miles, right? 9 mile.
If the New York Post went at Biden or sued Twitter rather, and then it came out that actually the CIA instructed us to do this, so now would they have immunity?
God, I mean, there's so many like fundamental constitutional issues that it raises if this national security state was involved in that. I don't even know where to begin.
Isn't it true though that Democrats in California were telling Twitter who to ban?
Well, I have to. I have heard that story, and I have to believe it's probably correct. Again, with some of these things, I'm so busy with some of these cases that I don't have time to do the same kind of research and really look at the raw data that might be useful. But it would shock me if that weren't the case.
I have to pull it up because we talked about it before. But basically, there were communications between Democrats saying like, "Hey, look at this," and they're like, "Oh, we'll get rid of it."
Look, I think there's no doubt that. Look, all of these things are connected. I mean, the radical left has overtaken, essentially every major sort of institution in the country, from academia to Wall Street to Silicon Valley to, now
federal law enforcement,
federal law enforcement,
and was it Mark Milley?
Oh, God,
Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Don't get me started. I mean, I love to get started. That was disgraceful. I as I mentioned to you before the show, I served in the 1st Cavalry Division in the mid '90s, and I was airborne, and I'm extremely proud of that, and I love this country. For a 4-star general to buy into this critical race theory, garbage that is so toxic and so poisonous and is tearing this country apart. It's sickening. The United States military has one job and one job only, that is to close with and destroy the enemies of the United States.
The most worrying thing to me about what Mark Milley said was that it shows we have a 4-star general who is inept and incapable of critical thought.
And
right.
That,
so,
yep.
so here's a guy who's supposed to be thinking and like analyzing the battlefield and can instruct.
But that should not surprise you in the sense that in a peacetime military, when I say peacetime, I mean a peacetime military with respect to great power conflict. Yeah. The best and the brightest of the officer corps does not rise to the level of general. The best and the brightest of the officer corps, serves their 4 years honorably, and then has the ability to go out and do some more creative, interesting things in the private sector. The people who rise to the level of general in a peacetime military, as we classically know from the Civil War, are
political.
Not. They're political. They're PowerPoint. They do PowerPoint presentations for a living. Ugh. Essentially, they do PowerPoint presentations for a living.
So what happens if a war breaks out?
Well,
right?
we have major problems. Look, historically, again. Go back to the Civil War. The Union had massive problems with terrible generals in the beginning of the Civil War. And it's huge. So now with this sort of wokeness layered on top of it, look, there will be another major power conflict. It will probably be sooner rather than later because of the weakness we now portray to the world, and we're gonna have a problem because of the sort of the wokeness in the Pentagon and the attempt to make it a social experiment, diversity engineering, training program or whatever they're doing. It's bad.
Yeah. So
bad. If China invades Taiwan tomorrow, and don't be surprised if it's not too far away. Let's hope they don't. But if they do,
Let's throw a little bit of Rome in there. Was there like a war conflict with Rome during their collapse? There was, right? Or was it barbarians?
Julius Caesar, and you might know even more about this, John, was leading his troops up north, and he'd basically conquered all of Gaul. He was returning as like the hero of Gaul, and they were going to try and get him on political charges and put him away.
Right. That's right. So what started happening in the Roman Republic is that so when you were in Rome as a leader, you were immune to kind of lawfare. You were not allowed to, do this thing where you just bring like lawsuits. But once you were out of power, then they could do that to you, and they started to do that. Julius Caesar being seen as the threat that he was, and being outside of Roman territory, and at that point being a military leader, not a tribune or anything like that, he had the classic choice to make as to whether to cross the Rubicon with his army, and he made that choice because he was facing political and probably physical extermination, or he was going to win. He was going to win or he was going to lose.
That was the thing about threatening to impeach and use political things to go after your political opponents, that eventually one of them is going to snap, and that's what Caesar did. He crossed the Rubicon, which is basically the was it a wall or something?
No, it's a river.
It's a river.
I think it's more of a stream than a river, but it's a very famous stream.
It's like it protects. It borders Rome, and it's symbolically you are not allowed to bring military troops beyond the Rubicon.
That's correct.
That violates Roman. So, but he did it. He was like, you know what? It's either I don't, and they arrest me and they destroy me, or I take control of the city.
That's right. And look, at a certain point when tyranny becomes extreme enough, it creates the conditions, for certain things to happen.
What if we're in the calm before the storm? A lot of people thought that 2020 was the time at which Trump was facing all these charges. So would he cross the Rubicon? The left is trying to claim that he did with January 6th, but he clearly did not. But what if 2024 is when, because maybe Trump said, look, we're going to run again. We'll run in 2024 and we'll win. We're going to win back the House. We're going to run again. We'll win. But what happens if something happens and Trump doesn't win?
We have, social media. You can't take the Capitol. That doesn't exist anymore. Like our government is decentralized now. So there's no place to march troops into. It would have to be like some organized digital cyber
you'd have to shut down all communications.
Takeover. Yeah, it'd be crazy.
The chain of command
organized thing. What do you think? I cannot see one guy doing that right now.
Certainly 2024 is, we used to say that 2016 was going to be one of the most important elections ever, and then 2020 was going to be one of the most important elections ever. 2024 is going to be extremely high stakes. I happen to believe that, and I like Donald Trump. I'm a big Trump fan. I hope that he runs again. I think he has unfinished business, and I think he can turn the country around. I personally believe he is going to win by such a massive margin in 2024 that, we're not going to have issues, and I pray that that's the case.
I agree. At least for now. We'll see. It's very, very early on.
It is.
We're in one of the worst years for political shows. So this is for everybody who can understand. I tell people, like, the year after the presidential election, it's just like your lowest traffic, lowest ad rates. It's brutal. Then you get the midterm, which everything improves. Then you get the campaign, the primary year for the presidential in 2023. So then it's like everything picks back up, and boy, our election year is great for political content. But we're in that lull. So we have so much.
I think you're gonna have a really good 2024.
I don't think
for your show.
I'm
viewers.
I'm not entirely convinced. I think people need to understand that 2016 was insane. How insane it was. I was in San Jose, and I watched this mob outside a Trump rally chase down some 16-year-old kid attacking him.
Yeah.
I saw a guy who got punched in the mouth because someone said he was a Trump supporter, but he was actually a Bernie supporter. I watched them shove an elderly couple in their late 60s to the ground, grab their MAGA hats and set them on fire, cheering. I watched a guy walking out going, "Yay, Trump," and a guy runs up with a bag and whacks him in the head with it. I filmed this video. Gets 1 million views in a day. That was, I think, 2015.
Yeah.
That's how insane things were. Then we get 2020. Look at what happened with January 6th. At the very least, a riot at the Capitol. Insane. And I keep telling people, I see no reason for this to de-escalate. Now you're getting the brunt of the federal government going after Trump supporters. Do you think people are sitting there just being like, well, it sucks, but I'm going to calm down? Or do you think they're being like, stop and leave me alone? Now, I'll tell you, the funniest smear against me, the SPLC, posted this tweet of mine where I said something like, I think we've passed the point of no return. The bridge has been, the nation has been so divided we can never go back, and civil war seems inevitable. And I was quoting a story. I was actually quote tweeting somebody, and the story said that like far right groups wear t-shirts calling for a second civil war. So basically, I'm like, the news reported these far right groups are driving around demanding civil war, and I'm like, feels like a civil war is going to happen, and they criticize me for it as if it was my idea. Listen, it's gotten so insane in this country.
It's bad.
And right now we're in this lull year. Mm-hmm. So it feels like everything's maybe chilled a little bit. But look what they're doing with the 1-6 commission. Look what they're doing with setting up Capitol police offices. When we get in the midterms and the Republicans are looking like they're going to win, the Democrats are going to start ripping their hair out and banging their faces on the wall, screaming at the top of their lungs. 2023, when Trump gets back up on stage and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am running for president one more time," and everyone goes, "Wah!" and screams, cheering, and they're throwing drinks in the air, whatever, the Democrats will start pulling their hair out again. It is going to be worse than we saw in 2016. It is going to be worse than we saw in 2020. I'm saying these things to be pessimistic. I'm saying there's going to be a conflict. Understand why. Maybe it will be like the scale of conflict. We don't know. But come on. I love this. I've talked about the potential for civil war. There's been a bunch of studies. Some national security experts, there was a story, I think it was in the Atlantic, said that they estimated between 35 and like 95% chance of a civil war in the United States. And I thought that was insane.
It's like 1 to 99% chance.
No. It was
of
because there was like 16 people interviewed. There was a wide range of what they thought, but the average was something like 65 to 70%. So then I have people say to me, they're like, "So Tim, remember last year when you were saying that we were headed towards a civil war? Yeah, what happened with that?" And I'm like, a bunch of people rioted at the Capitol, and they go, "Oh." I'm like, did you think that things calmed down since then? So a few years ago, when I was like, man, if this stuff keeps happening, it's going to get worse. Now we've got the 1-6 stuff going on. They're going after all these people. Do you think that when they go after that little old granny where the cop holds the door open for her and threatens her, or how about when the feds went to that Alaska woman's house and kicked her door in or whatever?
Is it wrong person?
Wrong person.
Yeah.
Do you think regular people are sitting back like, this is fine? Or do you think people are being antagonized to the point where their brains are going to explode?
You made me think of that meme with a dog sitting in the house on fire going, "This is fun."
Yeah,
Yep.
I totally agree that the level of intensity is being ratcheted up, to a very dangerous extent, and I agree that it will continue to do so in the current course that we're on until 2024. So I totally agree with you that we're going to see, we're going to see the same kind of and probably more conflict during the election than we did in 2016 and 2020. Yep. I just believe and I hope and I pray that Trump wins by such a margin that it kind of puts everything
a 49 state landslide.
Hey, I really think it could be. I really think it could be big. I think that like you said, I think you just said. I mean, I think the left terribly underestimates regular Americans, and I think when they think that they have an advantage, they press it and they overreach very much.
But I've heard a lot. There's been a lot of historical comparisons. So obviously we're talking about Rome and crossing the Rubicon. But I mean, are there really that many similarities, or is it just like a few things that people like to reference? Right. You talked about lawfare. You talk about.
No. Look, I mean. I think it's I forget who it is. I mean, one of my second or third favorite podcaster after you, Dan Carlin, has a podcast named Hardcore History, and it's really amazing. And he's big series on Rome, big series on Genghis Khan that he calls him that I love, and Alexander the Great I'm a huge fan of. But he's fond of saying that history doesn't necessarily repeat, but it rhymes. And it rhymes because human nature, is eternal. And there are trends and forces that change. There are individuals that rise to significance who have such a force of nature that they can alter things. So you can't say, hey, we're exactly in a situation that the Roman Republic is in, and we're heading the exact same direction and outcome. But there are definite similarities for sure that we should draw lessons from, and try to avoid certain.
A lot of people have likened it to Weimar Germany.
Yeah,
some people have likened
Reichstag.
it, but some people have likened it to the Spanish Civil War.
I think the 1930s comparison to the threat of the Third Reich is very apt in the following sense, which is and people are talking about this, some of them, but I don't think enough are. But I think that the Chinese Communist Party is an existentially dangerous threat to us and to freedom in the world right now. I don't think we're paying enough attention to it. I don't think we've been serious enough about it. I think we need to completely decouple from China, and we need to isolate them. And be building sort of an alliance of liberty that Steve Bannon, one of my other favorite podcasters, likes to say, with nations like Japan and India and Australia, and we need to be preparing for things with respect to that.
One of the things about the German, how it reminds me of Weimar Germany, is the burning of the Reichstag, which happened right after Hitler got into power. I think it was 1933. The building, the Capitol Parliament building, burned down. And he blamed the communists.
That was a false flag.
Apparently, no one's been able to prove, and they've done the math, and they're like, "There's no way one guy could light the whole building on fire."
But it's an American conspiracy theory.
So theories have arrived that he burned his own Reichstag down, and then used that as a reason to lock down the entire country, and start stripping them of their civil rights.
What was the special security bill that was passed because of that?
The Appeasement Act? Is that what it's? No.
An act that was passed in Germany.
Yeah.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Starts with an A. You got it.
Yeah. It's on the tip of my tongue.
I don't know the answer.
Enabling Act.
Yep.
The
Enabling Act.
Enabling Act. That's what it was. It was so close. It starts with an A, and I'm like, Enabling Act.
The Enabling Act. What a nice, benign name.
Yeah, sounds good.
That was his excuse. He's like, we need more power. We need to start arresting people, and we're watching similar things. And it's now, like you said, it doesn't repeat. It rhymes. A lot of people come out and they're like, oh, Nazi Germany. I'm like, look, it's going to be different, but it's going to be similar in a lot of ways. What are we saying? We have an ideological faction, demands purity. They are racial identitarians. They want law based on race, and they're indoctrinating children. A lot of similarities there.
And then 1/6, you've got, I don't even like saying 1/6, makes it sound like 9/11, but like this thing, I don't know that it was a false flag. I've heard that there were police officers involved with letting people into the building.
That's a fact.
That is a fact.
That is a fact. Yeah.
So
that is a fact. I have one client named Alan Hostetter, former police chief from Orange County, and he might be someone you want to have on a show someday to talk all about this, because he's happy to talk all about it. But he is an individual who seems to have had federal agents around him for a long time, leading up to January 6th, and so there's serious questions.
There's numerous videos where the police opened the door to allow people in. In one video, a cop says
they were urging people. Sometimes they were letting people in. Sometimes they were urging.
Cops are taking selfies with people. They're like, "Hey!" In one video, a cop says, "Don't agree with it, but I agree with your right to protest." As people walk past them waving.
So it could have been just mass disorganization, or it could have been intentionally like, hey, we can use this as an excuse to impose a lockdown.
I think y'all are missing the bigger picture. the police were in on it. Each and every one of those Capitol police officers were like, we're going to let all of our Trump MAGA friends in the building. So each and every one of these cops, why aren't they being investigated? Why aren't they being indicted?
So I will tell you, we're going to put a lot of Capitol police officers on the witness stand when we try these cases.
Why did you open the door for these people?
That's a pretty good cross-examination question, Tim.
Yeah.
It really
Does
is.
the jury hear that question? What's it going to say? Here's a video of you opening the door and letting them in.
I wanted to
Why'd
avert a
you do
riot.
it?
That's what I would have said. I wanted to avert a riot, so I let them in, so they didn't smash me up at the
Okay.
gate.
Is it trespassing?
Not if I let them in.
Haven't you seen the episode of Simpsons where I think it's Wiggum or someone tells Homer that if someone enters your property, you can kill him? And he goes, hey, Flanders. And then he goes, it doesn't work if you invite him in. He's like, aw.
Right. What if you?
That does create an analytical legal problem.
What if you?
For the prosecution?
What if you invite them in under duress?
What does that mean?
Meaning that you fear for your life, so you let them pass.
Like someone.
You're like 3 levels into the movie Inception on that one.
Yeah.
So if I'm the cop, and it's
there's a
not that I'm
video-
like,
hold on,
hey,
hold on,
come
hold
over
on.
here and go in. I'm like, these
If-
people are going to break me up.
If
so.
someone is in the front of your building and they have like weapons and they're threatening you, and so you're scared and you open your door, then I understand. In these videos, quite literally, it's a bunch of old people doting about, waving little American flags, and the police just open the door up, stand aside, and say, don't agree with it, but agree with your right to protest as people walk in. There's another video where the cop literally just opens the door, and one cop poses for a selfie with people. Like, dude, you're not going to tell me that's duress. Now, I think those cops got in trouble, right? The selfie cops?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
I do know there's another video that just came out that appears to show folks sort of frantically changing into different attire, sort of under trees.
Yep, I've seen that. There's a video where one of the first breaches in the building, they were all in black clad, blackout gear to obscure who they were and their identities, and that's not a typical thing of Trump supporters.
That certainly is not.
But there were a bunch of Trump supporters who said they were going to dress like Antifa. So
the key thing is, and again, I have to discipline myself to be careful about talking about the merits of these cases. But I mean, the important thing is, where's the video? Where's the 14,000 or 15,000 hours of video? Now, to be fair, the Department of Justice and the prosecutors, say, and I believe that they are in the process of setting up sort of a massive sort of database in the cloud that will have all that video that will allow defense counsel, to search through it. That is still going to take a long time to get set up, and it's going to take a massive amount of time to review all of that, because we need to review all of it to understand what happened that day. I also believe we should be seeing some video from before and after that day. I mean, why is it just relevant? What the video shows for January 6th, January 5th, and January 7th.
I think it's important to point out there were violent people, lots of them. There's a lot of video that's ridiculous. There are people throwing the barricades out, storming up and ramming police. We had Richie McGinnis, I think, this guy's everywhere, was actually
really is, yeah.
squeezed in between rioters shoving against these cops, and one cop's like screaming as he's being crushed. So all that stuff definitely happened. Now the problem is the Democrats on the left show that, and they say, look. And I think it is partially a problem that many on the right are just like showing the cops opening doors. Let's talk about all of it. They were bad. There were people there engaged in very bad activities, right? But there are a lot of people who are being charged when they were essentially welcomed into the building, confused and understanding what was going on.
That is just accurate what you just said. And very interestingly, and I'm not a fan of FBI Director Christopher Wray. I mean, when Christopher Wray was asked, questions by I forget which Republican congressman it was, and asked, constituents in my district are wondering about these people who were, ushered into the building, and that they're being charged. How many people are there like that? And, in classic Christopher Wray fashion, he dodged and ducked and prevaricated and simply would not go there and would not even remotely answer the question.
Because it's political. It's for power. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
That is one of the tried and true tactics of all time with respect to taking over.
No, I don't think the riot is on par with like the burning of the Reichstag or whatever.
Nothing really got destroyed, did it?
They burned down the building, didn't they?
No. On January 6th,
there were some actual historical artifacts that took some damage when windows got broken in. There was like an old bookshelf or something.
They burned the entire Reichstag. I don't think anyone died. during
Yeah,
that.
so it doesn't really matter though, because there was something symbolically destroyed. It was the normal process by which they certified the electoral votes. So that process is shocking to people. It wasn't a physical destruction; it was more of a metaphysical,
Oh, they
abstract.
interrupted the process. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it feels like an attack on the structures of the country's,
yes, of course.
abstract.
There's actually an interesting legal issue on that front, which we filed some motions on in our cases, which is that it is actually unclear under the existing case law as to whether or not that process that day, the certification of the electoral votes, actually qualifies as legally and technically an official proceeding as that is interpreted under the case law, because those have to have a sort of a quasi judicial function to them that it can be argued did not exist that day. Now that is unsettled. I mean, the courts will decide that. But look, I really believe, and I've said many times, I think the institutions that really fell down in all of this, so to speak, are the state legislatures, especially including GOP-controlled state legislatures, because the Constitution's designed to avoid something like this, and it's very clear. If there are any questions, the state legislatures can and should, not on January 6th. We're talking about back in December, when the Electoral College meets in the states. They are allowed to, very clearly under the Constitution, simply not send a slate of electors because they feel there are questions. If that occurs, and if no candidate gets 270 electoral votes, it goes to the House under the 12th Amendment, where each state delegation gets one vote, and there is a process.
The Republicans don't like Trump.
Oh, the establishment Republicans certainly don't like him.
Right. And there's been the insurgent Republicans, the populist Republicans, people who have joined the Republican Party for the first time. When I was I was covering one Trump rally in Florida back in I think it was 2016. Actually, maybe it was 2015. I'm not sure. But there was a woman who said, I met a lot of people like this. They had never voted before. They were totally independent. They considered themselves actually to be kind of liberal, but didn't really pay attention to politics. Trump came along, and he was saying the things they wanted to hear, and so for the first time, they were voting. A lot of people like that joined the Republican Party.
Yeah.
This started to change things, and the establishment Republicans, who had a bunch of people who would vote R no matter what for whatever reason, just because they were tribalist, were upset by it. Trump is bombastic.
He rocks the boat.
Yeah, he rocks the boat. He's demanding. He commandeered the ship, and they were more than happy to get rid of him.
There's no question about that, and I do think those new folks, those populist folks, are ascendant in the Republican Party, and I'm one of them, and I hope that they are. But I know you're from Chicago. I'm from Western Pennsylvania, and you recall there was a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania during
massive one.
Massive. Okay,
Yeah.
So for 55, whatever the number was, for 55,000 people to show up yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs for Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Okay, Western Pennsylvania is historically a very, old school kind of FDR labor Democrat type of area. Socially conservative, but very Democrat. For that many people to show up that ferociously, frenetically enthusiastic for Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania speaks volumes, and I think that rally in 2024 might be 2 or 3 times that size.
Have you heard about those books, about Barron Trump and the last president? You ever hear about those?
I have not. I see that Barron's very tall. I've seen that's one thing I've seen.
6'7" or something.
I think he's 6'7". That's the most recent thing I've seen.
Is that he's 6'7",
He
right?
is 6'7".
What?
Trump Tower.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. What if we're just totally misunderstanding what's going on? What's actually going to happen is in 20 years, Barron Trump, who's this 6'10", guy, runs for president. He's like, when my dad was president. He's got this deep voice, and he wins, and then he rules the 9 5. No. There's a book from the 1800s about Barron Trump, and the final book in the series is called The Last President, and it talks about how.
Oh, that's the character's name is Barron Trump.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And The Last President is a book about where I think it's, Trump wins the presidency on November 3rd, 1893 or something. And then the socialists and anarchists from the Lower East Side of Manhattan storm up to his fortress on Fifth Avenue. It's like the weirdest thing. I haven't read it. That's what we've heard. And a lot of people are like, how did something like that happen? So I'll call it a gag conspiracy theory, but there are people who genuinely believe time travelers went back in time or something like that, something ridiculous. I was talking to Will Chamberlain. It was really funny because I was like, there's a conspiracy theory that people invented time travel, go back in time to stop Donald Trump. And he goes, that's what you do with time travel? Like, of all the things you could stop, the killing fields,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
World War II.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, actually, yes. If the Democrats right now had time travel,
Oh, for sure.
that's what they would go and do.
That'd be their top choice for sure. And but if I look as a Gen Xer, if it does happen, it's just got to be the quantum leap style time travel. If you remember that show. Yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah, it comes on every day after Stargate.
Oh, it's got to be quantum leap. Those guys.
But it's at 7 p.m., so I don't get to watch it. I only get to see the intro.
Yeah.
I get to hear Sam go, oh boy.
those are the days. Those are the days. Say simpler times to say the least.
Yeah. Ziggy says you can't leap until you get reelected president. Why haven't I leapt yet?
Well, there's a new movie. Have you seen the new Chris Pratt movie Tomorrow War?
Yeah, I didn't like it all that much.
Oh, you weren't a big fan? I think I just love Chris Pratt so much that
Easy red.
Yeah.
What I didn't like about it was I felt like it was poorly directed. But I really liked the concept, and I really liked the attempt at doing a different kind of story structure. But there's just like the beats aren't hitting properly with like the humor and the action.
I just have to confess, if it has Ryan Reynolds or Chris Pratt in it, I'm pretty much sold.
Chris Pratt deserves all the support. He's a good dude. You know,
Yeah,
he
seems to be for sure.
stands up for what he believes in to a certain extent. You know, he wore the Gadsden shirt and
Yeah.
supporting people who are pushing back against wokeness and are successful in Hollywood. That's a really important thing. And
Yeah, it's a rare thing, and he's great in Magnificent Seven too. Are you a Magnificent
yeah.
Seven fan?
Oh yeah. That movie was
He's just great.
fantastic.
He's just great in Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, he does a good job, man. We're gonna go see Black Widow on Saturday. I hear
If
it's
there
good.
could be time travel, that's what I would do. Is I would go back and be part of the Magnificent Seven crew with this new cast.
they all
though, of course.
die.
Oh well.
No.
Yeah.
Not if you went back in time.
No, wait. A bunch of them die.
Well, several. No, not all of them die.
There's a bunch of them.
Well, there's 7. So I think 4 of them die. The Mexican guy survives.
Okay. No. Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke and his
the Asian guy.
Chris Pratt.
Died.
Are
Chris
these
Pratt
spoiler
died.
alerts, by the way?
The bear guy dies.
This movie's like
But
8 years old.
but I think
The Native American guy dies.
No, I think the 3 that survive are the Mexican guy who was offended being called a Texican, but he's the Mexican guy, and then Denzel survives, and the American and the Native American Red Harvest survives. Yeah,
that's a cool movie.
Red Harvest is amazing with the moving shots with the bow.
Yeah.
And then he also has the Last of the Mohicans scene with the tomahawk and the knife when he's protecting that woman up on that.
Yeah, good movie.
Oh,
man.
it's a very good movie.
Yeah, see, it's not all bad. We're chilling, as much as the world might be on fire, we got good movies at least,
Yeah,
right?
like I'll see a movie poster and I'll be like, oh, that guy is in this movie. I'm excited, and it's like I don't even care what the movie is. That guy is in it. I want to watch that guy act.
Well,
like
that's how
that
it's
guy.
always that's how it's always been.
The power of the cult, man. The power of culture. Like one human, like you were saying, can rise up and alter everything.
I'll tell you, he's one of those. As long as we're on it. I'll tell you that one of those guys that I see is one of those guys is. Were you a fan of the HBO series Deadwood?
No, I've not seen it.
Oh, Ian McShane. He plays. He plays kind of the main sort of bad guy, but with some good traits in Deadwood. But I think he can tend to be one of those folks. But I'll stop. You're the movie.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
he's a good bad guy.
Yeah, he's very good. I wasn't a huge fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. I love the first one. I think the first Pirates of the Caribbean was just an incredibly good movie. I think the sequels were not that good, and I think he was in one of those sequels. So that's the one caveat I'd give. But
I haven't seen any of those.
You haven't seen
No,
Pirates
I
of the
newed
Caribbean?
out on movies. I went to theater school, and they were all really anti-cinema. It was very weird.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of stopped watching
Yeah,
movies.
It's because the theater is a dead medium.
Yeah, they were like, I read plays. I don't watch TV.
The other one that it's my favorite TV show ever is Black Sails on Stars. That's kind of like Game of Thrones combined with Pirates of the Caribbean.
Cool.
Oh, that's a terrific show.
Yeah.
So.
When are they going to start making a series about January 6th?
Yeah.
I'm half joking, but
I believe
kind of
there are
did.
multiple ones underway.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Wow.
There are multiple both series and documentaries that are underway.
Yeah, they
as we
just came
speak.
out with one. I'm not sure what news
Yeah.
organization.
Well,
just
I think that there are.
published it.
I know that there are a couple that HBO is working on. So I think one is
Showtime series on January 6th.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
so it must not be that big of a
Wow.
deal then, because are there any movies about COVID yet? Or is it too? It's one of those too soon.
there
too.
was, yeah.
I think there's. I think there's Plandemic, I think it's called, which is kind of a documentary that I think
documentary.
is about,
But
They like doing these like it's Hollywood, so they're leftist, and they like doing movies that can push politics through culture. Like when they did what was that Fox movie where they went after Roger Ailes or whatever?
Bombshell.
Yeah.
Oh, Bombshell. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there was a couple. Yes, I was thinking of the HBO one where Russell Crowe plays Roger Ailes in the HBO one. I think. I like Bombshell. I thought Bombshell. I thought Bombshell was very entertaining.
Like
Yeah.
The story about what Roger Ailes was doing. Sure, he sounds like a bad dude, right? But are they going to pick up a movie about like I don't know Antifa burning down buildings?
Yeah, I mean,
They're not going to do that.
they'll wait till it's politically expedient.
Right. Well,
Same thing with virus movies.
Yeah.
When the left needs to regain control from Antifa, then they'll make Red Dawn U.S.
when their own starts to get eaten, which always happens with that kind of political philosophy. But look, with respect to buildings being burned down, and you probably know more about this than I do. But I mean, with respect to like Kenosha, for example, I mean, there were houses, there were multi-level houses. In which there were spray painting on the houses. Please don't burn this house down because there's a disabled person like on the top floor. Yeah, I mean this isn't Kenosha like on Lake Michigan, I suppose.
And what did the cops do? The cops didn't do anything about
it. The local and state government of Wisconsin completely and totally abdicated its most basic fundamental obligations to actually provide law and order. It's obviously happened in other cities as well with these chop zones and Chaz zones or whatever they're called.
No-go zones.
And that's totally unconstitutional. I mean that violates the guarantee of a Republican with a little r government.
The police took away your right to defend yourself.
Right.
And now that you can't, the extremists and the criminals and the rule breakers and the law breakers can do what they want. Then when their political allies take the DA, the police don't even go after the crimes of, that are more extreme. So
it almost sounds like a system or a plan.
Yeah, if you were saying earlier the
It's
track
exploit.
we're on is dangerous, I think you're right because that we can't talk about certain things on YouTube. Not that YouTube's the only place to have content. Like we can talk about it on timcast.com or whatever, but there's things that we can't talk about regarding the chaos that is disturbing that we can't debate, dissect,
Communist
analyze.
America, Ian.
No, it's very unsettling as Americans to have that sensation. I mean, I'm much older than anybody in the room, I think, but I mean, even look, growing up, and even I'm sure when you were growing up, I mean, you just the sensation in America was that you could really argue it out and hash it out and like stay up all night in college and like debate anything and talk about anything as long as you're civil to the other person.
Do you remember Skokie, Illinois, and the ACLU?
I know that there is something very relevant with respect to Skokie and the ACLU, but I can't put my mind on it.
It was
right
a
now.
bunch of neo-Nazis who were marching through a Jewish neighborhood, and the ACLU defended them.
And that's exactly so. That's a perfect example, and thank you for reminding me of why I started the NCLU because the only way to preserve the Constitution is to fight for the rights of those who you despise the most when it comes to their viewpoints. And right now it happens to be or it seems it is conservatives that are needing protection right now, but tomorrow it's going to be liberals. And
you see what China just did with banning LGBT groups?
I did not see that.
WeChat, one of their largest social platforms, banned a bunch of LGBT accounts. So you can see what power does. In the United States, just so happens the left communist faction and the Marxists have a lot of institutional authority. And people need to understand this, that there is a massive infiltration of Marxism in the U.S. government. What they need to understand about critical theory and Marxism is it's the idea of the oppressed and the oppressor.
Right.
That the
system is inherently, bad and evil and must be torn down.
Right. So it's not about like Stalin sneaking into the government.
Right.
It's about quite literally, there are people in the government. The military's doing it. What did we just have? Was it Lockheed? Where they were like, white people got to recognize them.
Raytheon.
Yeah. So at our military-industrial complex, our government, our police forces, our army are all embracing Marxist theory. They might not know that, but it literally is Marxist
What's
theory.
concerning is if it's oppressor and oppressed, and I'm the oppressed, then I overturn the oppressor, then what does that leave? It leaves me to become the oppressor.
It's all meaningless. It's just power structures. It's an ideology that is basically like, how can I describe it? It's like when you look at an atomic structure and you find the one frail atom that when you flick, the whole thing crumbles.
Sounds like
Yeah.
fluorine.
Well, it started.
Is that what fluorine
well,
does?
this was this.
Pretty electrostatic or electroelastic.
I mean, this was known as
Get into it later.
Hydrofluoric acid.
I mean, what you're talking about is the same as what used to be called critical legal theory, which became actually pretty ascended, at Harvard Law School a couple of decades ago. But it's the same exact idea.
Yeah. They want to find a way to demonize a villain, create an other. It's very demagogic, I suppose, and it works.
So what is it?
But it's really, really quite smart, because what they'll do is they'll say, you're a racist. And quite literally you have like James Lindsay being like, discriminating on the basis of race is wrong. And they go, racist! It's like, okay. So, I guess, that's what it is. That's what they believe.
If this theory is oppressor and oppressed, and the oppressor, the powerful are oppressive by nature, is that part of this theory?
No. So initially with Marx, you have like the class, right? The bourgeoisie, the proletariat, the working class, the elites, the political class, etc. Then you get critical race theory, where they're like white people. Critical
so
race
you
theory.
replace the bourgeoisie with white people, basically, for
Right.
the race theory. I see.
So now with critical race theory, you have oppressed and oppressors, and the white people are the oppressors, and the people of color are the oppressed.
And is the theory that if you were to remove white people from the equation, that there would no longer be an oppressor?
That white people need to recognize their privilege and give up their power.
This is very disturbing.
It's meaningless because you can't take your skin color off.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea ultimately is that you will always be an oppressor no matter what.
All of which, of course, is precisely why we have certain laws that just explicitly outlaw this kind of thing. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating to watch some of these state and local governments and corporations attempt to implement laws that are so flatly illegal and contrary to like the civil rights laws that were passed in the 1960s. But and they think that they can just get away with it, and they will unless they're challenged.
Critical race theorists hated civil rights.
Of course.
One of the core tenets of critical race theory is critique of liberalism. They felt that the
Liberalism with a little L.
Right.
Yeah.
They thought that the Democrats and desegregation and civil rights was actually depowering their community. They hated it. They were very critical of the Democrats. First of all, you had the Democrats that were pro-segregation, and then all of a sudden the Democrats started to say, okay, well, maybe we'll get behind these bills for a variety of reasons. And there was a letter circulated during the Ferguson riots among activists that argued segregation was a plot by white Democrats to force black people to exist underneath the economics of the white system.
Is desegregation?
Yeah, right. So what these activists were saying when they wrote this letter, before the end of segregation, when everything was separated, they said black people had their own wealth, their own neighborhoods, their own communities, their own churches, they had their own Wall Street. Along comes the Democrats and say, hey, we should end segregation. It's wrong. And as soon as that happened, you have these two systems where, yes, you have a lot of very wealthy white people, but the black community was building up their wealth. Now they're forced to exist at a lower economic standard to the white people. That what they were basically arguing was, when you had segregation, a black person would run their own restaurant. With the end of segregation, the black person would go work for the white man's restaurant. Now, I think that's a bit silly. You could still have your own restaurant. You can still have your own communities. And I think it's an overtly racist ideology, and the end of segregation was a very, very good thing. But these activists genuinely believe that they believe segregation was it's something they want. I'll put it that way.
When they hate Martin Luther King.
But they know that he's popular among liberals, and the liberals are the ones that can exploit. So they say things like, yay, Dr. King. And I always say this to my woke friends. Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. King, he said, I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. How are you fulfilling Dr. King's dream?
Exactly.
And they say,
Exactly.
You don't even know what he was about. I go, okay, I guess. I don't know. He said those things. So do you think that allowing schools to implement race-based discrimination is helping Dr. King's dream or hurting it?
Wow.
Now hold on.
The path is long. Let's find out.
You're getting a lot of leftists who have no problem criticizing him because it's becoming so prominent and prevalent that they're now much more free to do so. So when we talked about this book that's being taught in school, it's called Not My Idea. It's a children's book where a little white girl is exposed to the truth by her teachers about race. And she's angry with her mom who lied to her. And she screams, I'm tired of you lying to me, Mom. Tell me the truth. I see race. And the mom says, oh, no. Then there's a whiteness contract with a white hand reaching out in a devil's tail. Yeah, white people are the devil, they say.
You got to see this book, Jim.
They're teaching this to children in dozens of schools, but in many of these schools, once they get to that portion where it shows the white person as the devil, they stop. They don't show it. And they say, you can read the rest of the book on your own. You know why? It's the insidious nature. If they come out right now and tell children white people are the devil, their parents will flip out. But if they give them the beginning of the book, see, police brutality is wrong, they were lying to you, these liberals might be like, huh, okay. They have to do it slowly. It's insidious. These liberals are easy to exploit because they look at something and they say, that's unfair. They've got to do it slowly. Once enough liberals support this book, then they'll turn the last page and say, white people are the devil. And then these people go, oh, yeah.
Well, I think these parents and these moms are starting to stand up in these school board meetings, which I think is a very good thing. I think when I was driving down here, I went through Loudoun County, right?
It's right nearby.
Loudoun, which is of course where they wanted to shut down debate, and they dragged out the sheriff's deputies dragged out the parents who wanted to actually finish the period of debate that was called for, right? But look. The way that these things are going to turn around is that people who love this country and moms at a certain point will protect their kids, but these folks are going to start running for the school board, and they're going to start running for local offices, and good people have to get in politics and run for office, because that's where the real power is. That's where the real change comes from, is where you can actually take your pen and you can sign a piece of legislation, and I think that's starting to happen. It certainly feels like it's starting to happen.
I'm starting to think that this 100-year experiment of public school systems is showing its cracks, its flaws, and the dangers of putting your kids in a foreign environment and letting things happen to them.
Strangers can tell your kids
I had
whatever. And
so many bad teachers.
Yeah.
Just as awful.
Terrible, old, angry,
Evil.
worthless, useless. I'm going to say the worst stuff. No, they're probably fine people, but just not able to handle a group of 30 kids at a time. It was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I mean, there are states like I suppose New York and California come to mind, where the public education, the public school system seem to be disastrous, and it's hard to know what to do. I mean, I think the solution is probably multifaceted. I mean, it involves some degree of school choice. It involves some degree of getting the funds actually where they need to be to make sure that you can reduce class sizes and get good teachers in there. But yeah, I mean, we cannot have a system in this country where and I'm very fortunate that my kids go to an amazing private school, but you cannot have a system where a certain number of elite kids have teachers who are kindergarten teachers with PhDs, and they have an amazing experience, and then you have the masses of people whose kids are not only in physical danger but they're being indoctrinated like this. I mean,
voucher program.
Yeah, look, I'm a huge believer in choice and competition, and so school choice and voucher programs and competition, generally speaking, seem to me to be very good ideas. I think the healthcare system also needs more competition and whatnot. I think the trick becomes exactly how to implement these things. So that it's actually effective. But what we have right now in these big blue states and these cities it's just not tenable. So something else has to be tried. Well, it's just,
The cities themselves, man. I'm just I am anti-city right now.
It's not a good time to be in a big city.
We were outside in the front today with Andy. Andy is a guy he's going to be running all the rec area stuff. He's going to be running the grind bar, and we're going to be setting up events and stuff. So we were standing in the front, and we were trying to plan out so where do we build the mega ramp? Like where do we put the giant launch for the skate park? And it's not about, look, I understand not everybody can, go out and buy materials for a skate park, but you have space. Right. You can walk outside with your friends and just look at the grass and say, what can we do here? What activities should we have? In these cities, it's brutal, man. You live in a cubicle.
Yeah.
Your kids are in a crammed school environment. Teachers don't even know their name. Teachers like, who is this? You're in my class. Miss Wilson, I've been in your class for all year. Huh. I can't even tell. I got too many kids. Yeah, I don't want to live in that.
It's a different.
It's awful.
Different type of versatility.
No, and I think that could look. I think that you're going to have people start to look. People who want to live a certain way and to believe in certain things are going to start self-selecting out of the cities and to be in places that seem safer and in which they're not attacked for having a MAGA hat on. I think that and obviously with COVID and the way folks have gotten more used to working remotely, I think it's going to accelerate that trend, and that could lead to further division in the country, because I think we're going to have people sort of segregating themselves away from each other because there's just too much volatility right now.
Yeah, you know, we're going to go tomorrow, see a movie, hang out, have some candy and popcorn. Then we're going to just relax and enjoy a Saturday. We've been filming it. We make a vlog out of it. We're going to start ramping up doing daily vlogs and everything. But the point is, there's got to be something else to kind of clear your mind and help you focus on other things.
I do music because I want to scream. When I want to exert my rage on someone, I just got to turn it into song. I got to scream with my body's full vigor. And it's a bit of
bad for your vocal cords.
Yeah, but it's good for my mind.
Play the drums, bro.
And it doesn't hurt other people because like taking it out on someone else is terrible.
You can't scream in a city though.
They do it online in their text, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
you can kind of tell when they're reading in their text.
But if you live in a city, like so,
it's hard to scream in the city.
I lived in Brooklyn. Can't have drums. Can't play guitar. You can play guitar, but it's like within certain hours because like you hear the pounding on the floor. Then
and unless you're really good, your neighbors are going to complain.
Yeah, they're going to complain no matter what.
They don't always complain if you're really good.
I lived in an apartment where someone in the building worked graveyard shift, and they're always like, it's like 5 p.m. and they're like, "Excuse me, I understand, but look, man, I gotta sleep," and we're like, "We'll do our best because we're trying to be nice." It's brutal.
I listened to hardcore history and you know listen to the stories about how Alexander the Great's mom was like super difficult sometimes, and then after he died from partying too hard, there was like literally like 40 years of warfare among his generals to try to sort things out, which which makes you feel like so it could be worse.
I heard that he was poisoned. Have you heard that theory?
Oh. Well, for sure, that's a major theory. I don't think anybody knows for sure.
I would be surprised if he wasn't at this point.
He had put together the world, the largest empire that the world had seen at that point. And so, so there was a lot of folks with a lot of, motivations to do such a thing. Clearly he seemed to, like to have a good time as well. And so who knows for sure, with respect to the amount of alcohol that he was supposed to consume. But no, I would say that the consensus among serious historians is that yes, he was assassinated.
He had led all his generals across Persia and was conquering the world, and they were like, okay, we did it.
Well,
Alex, can we go home now and enjoy?
They got basically like halfway like through India, and they're kind of looking around at like the Himalayan mountains and the snow, and they're like, okay, like I mean, seriously, like what's the point?
My assumption was he was like, we're gonna go forever, and they were like, no, we have to stop him. One of his generals was like, he's gone too far.
Well, he's one of the most. I mean, he's one of the most fascinating personalities in history, and he had an insatiable appetite to conquer everything. He was tutored from a young age by what was it, Aristotle. His father was one of the most powerful figures of his age that handed him like a Ferrari of an army that was tailor made to take over Persia, essentially. And his mother is one of the most powerful, fascinating, manipulative female characters in the ancient period for sure. And so the Alexander the Great story is a good one.
Well, how about we ask the audience over in the super chats? If you haven't already, give us a little tap of that like button, subscribe to this channel, become a member over at timcast.com, and share the show if you really like it. All right, the first and most important question. Hutch the Wolf says, hey, what happened to the stream last night? Well, we have to be very careful because YouTube is communist, so it's on Rumble. So it's on Rumble, and it's on iTunes and Spotify and all the podcast platforms, but it ain't on YouTube, and that's YouTube's fault. So I'll just put it that way. All right, let's see what we got here.
Oh, this is where you take questions from?
We just read the chats and see what's up.
Nice.
Mickey Stone says a new dark matter research facility is being built 2 kilometers underground in Victoria. If they succeed, Australia will have an infinite energy source. Is that real?
They've been looking for
weird.
dark matter for like 2 decades, and now that I'm studying quantized inertia, I'm wondering if maybe, there's lots of ways to look at something that exists. So like this ball of obsidian, you could write different theories explaining the existence of this ball of obsidian from different layers. Like one's the cellular theory of behavior, one's the atomic theory of behavior, one's the subatomic theory, and they're all right, even though they all are different. So I wonder if dark matter could be explained, and there could be theories that explain reality without it.
So you should go to the university.
So the one thing I contribute to, the only thing I can contribute to that answer is that I think if Australia develops it, there could be a lot worse people that develop it. So
All right, Trevor Schoon says, when talking about critical race applied principles, you said they consider whiteness property. Do you all think they will try to put a tax on whiteness? Do I think? They've been trying to. They've come out and said it. It's called reparations.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you're like a
well, then they've also started to just explicitly provide more benefits to folks who are not white, whether it be getting a COVID vaccine first or it be certain financial benefits. So yeah.
Let's say you're you're from Ukraine. You moved. Your parents moved to the United States, and then they brought you with them as a child. Or actually, Luke's a good example. Luke is from Poland. His family moved here with him when he was young. He grew up here. Why is he paying taxes in reparations for something he had nothing to do with? Because he's white. So some people receive and some people lose. Yeah, that's a tax based on race. All right, let's see. Angry Waffle 2 says, I live very close to Kenosha. My family still lives there. If Kyle gets an excessive punishment, we need to rise up or punishing self-defense will be the norm. Yep. So people need to, I can't tell you what the most effective thing to do, but organizing, understanding protest, understanding your power in media, understanding your power in industry. This is the funny thing about like January 6th. These people think, and I get these comments from people where they're like, we have to fight. It's the only way. And I'm like, oh, that'll give you control of like institutions and colleges to indoctrinate children. No, it won't do anything. You need to actually be professional, persuasive, resourceful, and get jobs. And like, people can do. So people want to know how they can fight back. Apply for a job at Google. There you go. Become part.
Yeah, there has to be almost a counter march through the the counter long march through the institutions to try to start to take some of these things back. Yeah.
Maximin says, Tim, Facebook wiped all Kyle Rittenhouse and Kenosha shooting content. Search Facebook for his name or Kenosha shooting, nothing comes up at all. They are in the process of removing search terms related. That's because, well, it's two reasons. One, advertisers don't like it. It's not good. And there's probably a political component where they're like, hey, if liberals can't see it happening, they'll just assume the narrative is true. If people watch that video, they're going to be like, this guy's defending himself.
Yeah, I mean, it makes logical sense because every single video shows that he was defending himself. And remember, there's like thousands of videos showing it. It's not just one.
He was on the ground. The guy was about to smash his head with the skateboard. Could have killed the guy.
The guy with the skateboard did smash his skull with the skateboard, and could have easily killed him just with that blow. But the person that I think you're talking about is the person with the Glock who was literally coming down to shoot him, execute him.
Yeah, he's like walking up to him with the gun.
Crazy.
He's got a gun.
Well, he tried to fake surrender.
Yeah,
he tried to fake surrender.
He backs up.
He tried to fake surrender.
And then Kyle.
What is the precedent like if you go into a mob where people are fighting with a gun and you walk into it, you choose to, and then they start grabbing at your gun and you start shooting in defense? Are you really defending yourself, or did you put yourself in a situation where you're the aggressor?
You're defending yourself.
Even though you're defending yourself.
So there's a lot of questions, especially as the analogy pertains to Kenosha. Do you live or work in this area where there's a mob of people?
So that's relevant.
Yeah, it is. If you're supposed to be there or you're defending your community. More importantly, though, just because there's a group of unruly, unlawful people doesn't mean you as a citizen have no right to exist and bear arms.
Or to be there. I mean, yeah.
I got a right to keep and bear arms. So if I'm walking down, I mean, based on what you're saying, Ian, no one in Chicago should be allowed to have guns, period.
It's kind of that argument of if you go into a cage with a bunch of hungry bears and the bears attack you, are you going to blame the bears for attacking you? Or are you going to blame the guy for getting in the bear cage? Similar with what Andy Ngo was experiencing.
Sure. Yeah, but they're completely different circumstances. If you based on your analogy, no one in Chicago is allowed to defend themselves. Chicago is ridden with crime, violence, gang activity. So self-defense is now wrong because you entered this place. Right. That's different than don't go out late at night, because you'll get mugged. You go out at night at Chicago, you run the risk. I mean, I talk to people in Chicago who are saying they're scared to go out at night because of it's just constant. It's getting worse and worse and worse. So many of them stop doing it. Many of them are, people I know are leaving. We heard about San Francisco. 40% of people polled said they were going to leave because of declining quality of life. That's different from, do you have the right to defend yourself? If you have to go, let's say you have a big house and one day you show up and there's a bunch of bears in it. Are you allowed to go in and fight the bears off?
Yeah, because it's your house.
There's a difference between should you go into the house? Probably not unless you can defend yourself.
Good point.
So it's like it might be your house. There's a bunch of bears in it right now. You're going to need some help to clear out the bears in a very, safe way. But if your family was in there and it was like your medicine was in there, or let's say you're diabetic and your insulin's in the fridge and you're going to die, it's like you have to go in.
You got to choke a bear.
And if the bears attacks you, you got to learn how to fight that bear with your bare hands.
Punch it in the nose.
Unless you've got, I don't know what kind of gun takes down a bear, to be honest.
Sonic.
I think you need. Yeah,
well, that's
you need a 50 caliber for sure.
You think a 50 cal?
Well, I think it'd be that would be your. Well, that would be the very least. I think you would need to have a chance.
308 though, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
If like not one, but if you get him in the head, maybe, right?
I would assume so. I mean,
Yeah,
I would feel better about a 50 caliber. I think. But even though I was in the army, you're the one that lives in the country now, and so you're more up to speed.
I don't know. I've not had to fight a grizzly bear. We have a bunch of deer that come here, but we're cool with the deer. They're all right.
There's a first for everything.
We got turkeys all over the place. The turkey shot in the 12 gauge is pathetic. You know what I mean? But like, it does the turkeys in, I guess, if they're a nuisance on your property. The turkeys come by once a month. We don't mind them. Yeah. But a bear, I don't know. I think people in the chat are gonna know. What does someone say? 338 Winchester? No. 338 WM.
308.
Someone said 308.
Yeah.
I figured, I don't think 45 would work.
So.
No, not a 45.
Yeah, 45, like standard 40, like a 45 ACP subsonic. It's gonna get stuck.
Just irritates them.
Speaking of turkeys, you guys ever hang out like face to face with a turkey before?
There's a bunch of them. They're over outside all the
time. But
time.
have you sat within like 6 feet of one and just chilled with one ever?
I wouldn't call it that.
You
I've
should.
Stood on the
I was in South America and this woman was housing this turkey to eat it eventually, and he would come up and sit next to us, and they are terrifying because they have these huge claws. They're massive, but then you look in their eyes and they have this kind wisdom in their eyes. I see why Ben Franklin wanted to make it the national bird.
They're like the modern velociraptors or something.
True,
all right, here's a good one. Victor G says, amazing how blue-pilled Tim is on conspiracies and then cannot understand how people can be so blind about how corrupt the media is. Actually, I think you, sir, are the one who is blue-pilled. If there is something as such as like overly red-pilled, I don't know, but there is an idea that when you take the red pill, you wake up from the matrix. But you cannot claim that you've seen a meme and looked at circumstantial evidence and it's been enough to prove something definitively. There is a meme that's gone around for a long time about the Clintons, and it lists all of these names. I have gone through a ton of these names and been like, that's the stupidest attempt at connecting somebody. It's like this one firm once handled a bank account for Bill Clinton and their receptionist. It's like, whoa. They're like, if you've got a company with 3,000 people and could you imagine if it's like, you go to a shopping mall and then one day someone in the shopping mall turns up dead and they're like, but the Clintons were shopping there.
Whoa.
So coming back to that one, I'll just say that because my firm sued Hillary Clinton on behalf of Tulsi Gabbard, I'm just going to hope that you're correct about that one. So
I just think this latest story with this journalist, it's like he broke a story about Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton, then for years was writing a book about it, then went on a book tour about it, and the Clintons were like, not yet, wait for it. Now it's like, what? Like, if they wanted to stop him from writing if they were mad about what he was reporting, wouldn't they stop the book from coming out? It was 6 years later. You can't be like, well, 6 years later. It's people are looking too much for confirmation bias, and they say I'm blue. Well, someone said I'm blue pill on conspiracies, bro. I'm doing the investigations and not finding the evidence. I'm not going to sit here and pretend evidence exists when it doesn't. There's certainly things you can bring up that are creepy, like the painting of Bill Clinton in a dress on Epstein Island.
Oh, that is
or
weird.
Bill Clinton flying on the Epstein plane 27 times or whatever. Bro, that's creepy stuff that we know happened. Luke Rudkowski getting on the boat and jumping onto Epstein Island like a lunatic.
Clinton
What's he
getting
doing?
freaky at Epstein Island.
Unsettling.
Yep. All right, let's see what we got. Doug Andrew says, greetings, Tim and gang. I'm making it a point to watch your videos on Rumble instead of YouTube. Don't fret, though. I'm still leaving likes on YouTube. All right, well, that's cool.
Thank
you. Look, we have to leverage these platforms where the culture war is happening. We can't just abandon them because it's where the culture war is happening. So it is a challenge, right? Twitter, however, I have complete disdain for, and I tweet nonsense. Like, I don't, maybe that's worse. Because I'm giving Twitter the best content, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if I was going to tweet things like breaking news, Donald Trump did this. Okay, I guess that's like, legitimate, serious content. Instead of posting pictures of goats and stuff, just like, look at this. Look at this, a deer trying to eat my pawpaw. Because
I can say one can tell that you're sort of messing with the universe with your tweets sometimes, which is very fascinating, as opposed to Cassandra's just full on attack mode. So
following Cassandra is the best.
It is.
All right, let's see. Noah Zork says, although I consider myself an amateur sleuth, I believe I can say with some certainty that the person that fired on Ashli Babbitt was on the other side of the glass.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a video of it, isn't there?
Yeah, of the guy, right? Of the specific. I don't know. Is there actual video of the guy holding the gun, releasing the chamber? Or is it like you just kind of see where the guy is and then?
No, there is video of his hands holding the firearm. He also, I will note that he, interestingly, I think, removes one of his hands from the firearm and seems to take it to his earpiece that you cannot see, but that seems to be the natural conclusion. There are a lot of questions about January 6th. There are a lot of questions about that incident as well.
All right. Zach Goo says, I work at a large trucking company. We haul refrigerated goods. Had a meeting today about how our trucks aren't being fixed due to parts on back order. They also said all oil changes are suspended due to oil shortage. I've heard some creepy scuttlebutt about oil and gas.
Oh, yeah.
Just scuttlebutt, just internet rumors. People could be freaking out. Who knows? We'll see.
So should we order like 60 pounds of WD-40 or something?
No. I for breakfast, I've been having fresh eggs and vegetables from our own garden. It's the greatest feeling when you're like, I eat food of my own creation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the chickens, just like we let them in the farm, they eat the bugs. They got our tomatoes though, but we're kind of happy they did.
Somebody did.
I just drink espresso and I have to start eating more healthy, so I'm gonna come hang out with you.
But
more.
it's just a great feeling to be like, we
Oh, for
grew
sure.
oh man, we have so many cherry tomatoes off of
Yeah, I
one
heard you talking
plant.
about that in the show. It does sound yummy.
I took like
Yeah.
20, threw them in a pot with some olive oil, and then I poured the fresh eggs over the top and let the egg just those cherry tomatoes, they just pop there.
I diced
so
a
delicious.
zucchini from the garden and sauteed it with like red wine vinegar and salt. Ooh. Dude, it was next level. I put a sausage in there with it and kind of let the sausage grease kind
That'll do
of go in.
Oh,
but
really?
Man, it was good.
That does sound really good.
Yeah, that's the way to live for sure.
That's why I'm saying when people are worried about there's been food shortages, oil shortages, trucker shortages, gas stations are starting to run dry across the country. It's happening. They say it's not a gas shortage, it's a trucker shortage. I'm just like, say it all you want. Okay, I got some electric bikes, not too fast. I got an electric car. We'll see how long that lasts. We're getting the solar panels and stuff. We have these backup batteries. When the power went out here, we immediately ran and plugged in all the backup batteries, and we're still able to do the show even though the storm knocked out the power.
Very exciting.
But these batteries come with solar panels you can lay out in the sun and plug in, and they charge off solar. It's fantastic, and they're huge. If you only have like one panel set, it would take like probably 3 days to fully charge the box. But we actually have I think we have like 24. So you lay them all out on the ground in the grass, plug it in, and it charges up in an hour or two. And you can run AC off of it. You can run your washing machine out. It's amazing.
Yeah.
These things are fantastic.
Can you run multiple batteries through all, like 24 panels and like 8 batteries? Can you have them all plugged in?
Technically, yeah, but it's not worth it to do it that way. You just charge the one up, then switch it over and switch it over and switch it over because you'll get some diminishing returns.
Well, I did hear your discussion about gold on your last show, and a lot of people think about that when it comes to the kind of apocalypse scenario. But your discussion of that was very persuasive. That's not really where you want to go.
Well, gold is where but I don't think the apocalypse is going to happen.
Yeah,
gold is excellent if you think there's going to be an economy.
Right.
Gold is valuable among humans, but if we're like talking Mad Max,
right?
What do you want gold for? I guess you know what I mean.
No, yeah, it has. I mean, it's useful as a medium of exchange in a at least marginally functioning society. But other than that, it's like food and water and weapons.
And we have been marginally functioning throughout the last 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 years. Even though there's been catastrophe and war, we still continue
gold
to
persisted.
function. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if we nuke ourselves and it's like the last man on Earth. You're not gonna trade someone gold. They're gonna be like, bro, I need water. Do you have water? I'll give you some bread. But even if like there's a peaceful divorce and major conflict, gold and silver are in my opinion, for me, good bets.
It's good to have it's certainly good to have in reserve for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in precious metals and cryptocurrency, but you've got to balance it. Like, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just saying, for me, I think it's important to have a balance between some different hard assets, stocks, and everything. Because I can't remember who we were talking to. They said if the market collapses, then you need to have some liquid assets so you can move in and out. And
yeah.
But if you put everything in one basket, who knows what's going to happen.
Well, you got to be ready to pounce on assets if the market folds, basically, with your.
Well, I think what people realized in 2008, 2009 is that essentially all paper assets can go to hell like in one fell swoop.
All right, we got this one from Dalamar. He says, John Pierce, Matthew Pearce was arrested today for entering the Capitol with a GoPro camera and press badges on. Friends are unsure of his status right now. He was streaming on Twitch and on D Live covering the event. He is going to need a lawyer.
So look, I am here and I'm trying to help, everybody that can, because a lot of people need help. So reach out. Each defendant's obviously in a different scenario in terms of, the facts of each case. And again, there's some very interesting things about January 6th. It gets more interesting by the day.
Yeah. The 21.6 talk show says Tony Bobulinski.
That's the name.
That's the name.
That's the name.
Yeah.
Tony Bobulinski.
We were not actually that close.
No, we were way off.
You were
What?
making it.
Couldn't remember.
Pancake Astronaut says, love the show, trying to create culture. If you could, sir, shout out my metal band, Mind Virus. There you go, Mind
just
Virus.
did.
Huh.
Yeah, right. All right, let's see. Michael Schwobel says, there is a video out there of Trump supporters outside in MAGA hats asking the police why they're not stopping them.
Huh.
Yep, seen it.
That does exist.
He's yelling at the cop like, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing anything? And the cop's just like, meh.
That man was fired up about it. Yes, I know
Those
that.
cops were clearly...
they were ordered to stand down.
No,
Because
bro.
if they had gotten into altercations and fought people, it would have been the worst optical.
There's video of the cops letting them in.
Yeah, they were ordered probably to not get involved and just be as passive
there's
as
video.
possible.
It's obvious that
I'm saying probably,
it's
obviously.
obviously Donald Trump told all the police, I'm the back the blue president. And they were like, you got it. And the cops were like, we're going to make this happen.
Oh, that's another conspiracy theory.
Well,
I haven't heard
hold
yet.
on. It's not a conspiracy theory.
Trump's like,
Trump was the president. Trump supports police. Police let people in and helped facilitate the insurrection. Let's round up all of these Capitol cops. Now, the cops that were defending the Capitol, okay, you guys are free to go. And the cops that refuse to intervene or open the doors, we got to get those cops rounded up and investigated, don't we?
I think that there's, from a factual standpoint, there is no question that there were Capitol Hill police that were not just letting people in, but were urging people to come in. And I think that there are very direct and tough cross-examination questions that need to be asked of each one of those individuals.
All right. Let's see what we got. Rob Santana says, Tim, in Tomorrow War, spoiler alert for those that haven't seen Tomorrow War, because here it comes. Tim, in Tomorrow War, they need two jabs to kill the queen in the past when they could just have blown up the ship in the first place. That's correct.
Yep.
I didn't.
So many questions.
Yeah.
I didn't get that deep in the analysis.
All right, we're going in. You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Spoiler alerts to the umpteenth degree. For those who have not seen the Tomorrow War, you're not going to want to hear this, but I am going to now tear it to shreds.
Do it.
So the Tomorrow War, it's about a bunch of people, they're chilling, and then all of a sudden a portal opens and people from the future come back to the past saying we are losing a war against aliens and we're going to draft people from the past to fight in the future because we're desperate. Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess. Sure, it's kind of a weird plot, but I do appreciate the uniqueness of it. All right, let's talk about this. So Chris Pratt goes in for testing, and they find out that he's going to die in 7 years. The war takes place in 30 years. They say, you've been drafted. They send him and a bunch of middle-aged people to the future. At some point, someone notes, you notice that all the soldiers that came to the past are very young, and all the people that go to the future are very old? And they go, oh, they're trying to avoid a paradox so that someone in the past doesn't interact with themselves in the future, and the people who come to the past haven't been born yet. And I'm like, oh, except in the movie, everyone's dead in the future. Everyone is. It makes no sense to be like, he dies in 7 years, you can go to war. There's only 500,000 people left on the planet. So why would they draft a bunch of old people when everyone's already dead? Now, who dies first? In the movie, turns out Chris Pratt, okay, I'm telling you, spoilers.
Just do it.
Chris Pratt's daughter is this little girl, and then he gets drafted into the future, and sure enough, the colonel in command, it's his daughter.
Oh, weird.
She's pretty badass.
He
too.
says,
Great.
Colonel, and she goes, well, when people start, getting knocked off, you wear a lot of names or whatever, basically implying that you become colonel when everyone else is killed in the war, which
battlefield
is to
promotion.
imply most of the soldiers are dead. Why would they draft a bunch of middle-aged fat people like this fat guy to go and fight in a war unless all of their frontline infantry had actually died already? In which case, people from the past who are actually in the military would be the ones to be drafted.
Of course.
Because they'd be like, you're already dead in the future. Now we're going to take you and bring you into the fight in the future. It's ridiculous.
Well, also, what if they pulled someone's dad into the future and got him killed in war before he had the kid that was the soldier from the future?
Right. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. I assure you, I could make a better movie. I could write a better story.
I'm not sure if it's because it's getting late or not, but you're just is now like above.
Market level.
Your mind's moving faster than mine is on this.
Oh,
one.
dude, I already rewrote the whole movie after watching it.
Yeah.
I do this with a lot of
figured
movies.
you
I'm like,
did.
okay, I'm gonna rewrite the plot. He was a military vet. It should have been shortly after. They should have been only drafting military. There's a whole lot that should have changed in that movie.
But you will keep Chris Pratt.
Oh,
in
definitely.
He's so
course.
good.
And I thought the daughter character
She's good too, yeah.
was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris is the only reason to watch that movie, honestly.
Yeah.
She's
Oh, she
just
was.
so
Oh,
good.
I just remember where I saw her. She was in Live Another Day 24. The Jack Bauer.
Oh, interesting.
She played the CIA agent in London. Yes,
Talented.
that's where I recognize her from.
Zach Robinson says, "Is this enough to say I'm sorry? Never changed him. I can't believe you read that last night. When is the live chat coming with your live website streams? That would be fire. Free culture war discourse is the best discourse. You could even air at 11 and react to chat." We have a lot of plans, but it's just... I'll break it down. You know, there's a lot of people who need to understand there's no amount of money that can get you what you want if it doesn't exist, right? I was hanging out with this dude, this YouTube guy, and we were in D.C., and this was actually on January 20th. It was Trump's inauguration. This guy comes down, and we were talking, and I said, "So what, did you fly in first class, you know, to get down here?" And he laughs and goes, "First class? I'm way beyond that." And I laughed, and I was like, "Oh, a private plane?" And he goes, "Dude, I took the train." And I started laughing. It's like, how do you think you get from New York to D.C.? Why would you spend 5 hours going to get it? Like, just hop on the train.
It's much more relaxing to take the
You
train.
walk in, you hop on the
love the
train, it's right
train.
there, boom, you're in D.C.
You're on the
And I was like,
yeah.
oh, there's no amount of money. Like, if you want to get a private plane, it still takes time to go to the airport, charter the plane, get the permissions, get on the runway, you're waiting in line. Train's faster. People don't realize this. So here's what's happening with the website dev. I can go to the developers and say, I will give you all the money in the world. And they say, there's still only so much work a person can do in development. You can't have 10 people designing one thing, because then you've got a bunch of code conflicting with each other and no one knows what someone else is building. So it actually has diminishing returns. So there's actually a happy medium of how many people you can have developing something. So it takes a long time. So we want to have website streams. We want to have, so you can listen to the bonus podcasts. We're going to be doing audio only versions with all the members podcasts for people who want lower bandwidth and want to listen in areas without high speed and stuff like that. I think Rumble already offers a low bandwidth version as well, but we want to do an audio only. It's going to take a bunch of dev. So websites first, then the mobile app, but we're going to have a ton of crazy content. We are going to have we already have technically 3 shows. You have Tim Pool Show, which is me monologuing, Timcast IRL, which is the conversations. We have Cast Castle, which is the vlog. The next one we're doing is the unexplained and the paranormal and all that stuff. It's going to be epic, and we're going to have that should be starting up in the next month or so. And then we're going to be doing tech, gaming, all sorts of stuff. We're probably going to do true crime, obviously, but we're going to have a bunch of different shows. It's
Dude,
gonna
I'm
be
so
fantastic.
excited to do a
Sounds awesome.
tech show.
Oh yeah, but we need
Weird technology.
So the interesting thing is, I think there's an overlap with you, Ian, in the unexplained show, but there's got to be the wild world of science with Ian
you
kind
guys
of thing.
just gotta go crazy.
So where do you guys stand on the UFO revelations with these Pentagon videos?
I think they're really using it as an opportunity to raise money for the military right now as a kind of a scare tactic. But also I've been studying these things called talking plasma balls that the military has been working on, where they'll coordinate lasers, 3 or more, into the atmosphere to trisect them and create a ball of plasma, which is showing up on radar. And then they can move the ball around. And they're like, how can a ship even move like that? But it's
Right.
tracking on radar.
Yeah,
the
it's
actual
imagine-
craft, I think it's Tesla Tech that they've recovered and have been
It's-
working on lightweight drones since the 30s or 40s.
You ever point a laser pointer at a wall when a cat was in the room? And the laser pointer's moving in ridiculous ways
Yeah.
because you can just move the light, and the cat's just freaking out how is it doing this? That's what we're doing right now. We're look at these ships, and it's probably a guy with a flashlight. And he's like, duh. No, for real. But you make that point with the plasma balls.
Talking plasma balls.
But even if it's plasma, whatever it is, it could literally just be that they're in a plane and it's a high-powered visible laser moving, and they're how? And then it disappears, and they're like, whoa! And it's you're looking at a light, dude.
Right.
It's how is it moving so fast and turning on a dime and going through clouds, and it punched a hole in the clouds. Yeah, high-powered laser. How about
But the
that?
craft I'm really interested in. What are the materials that they make? Bob Lazar worked at Area 51. He saw, according to him, 9 different
I don't
shapes
buy
of
it.
craft that apparently can move. And I have friends that are Jeremy Riss, the alien scientist, working on anti-gravity. That's a real technology. If you create enough horizontal momentum, you can kind of negate vertical momentum and then move things up. So its idea of spinning things super fast can create
Like a
the ability
helicopter.
to lift. And I don't know if air has anything to do with it.
All right, well, let's read a little bit more because I got to read this one. Michael Heilers says 458 SOCOM kills pretty much everything depending on range and load. If anyone's ever seen a 458 SOCOM, oh yeah, they're massive. But yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Would a Sabo slug and a 12 gauge work on a Grizzly? I'd imagine it would.
A Sabo. If we can talk about tanks, I can tell you a Sabo round would take out a Grizzly.
Well, I can't show it on camera, but we'll just.
Yeah.
What is this? What is a Sabo exactly?
A Sabo round. A Sabo round is the that's one kind of Sabo round.
We're not gonna.
But-
I'll look at it later.
But a Saber round is the primary tank.
I'm like showing Ian one right
Saber,
Like I can't switch the camera now.
it's a primary tank killing round that another tank uses. It's an armored piercing, fin stabilized, discarding saber round with tracer, which essentially means Sabo is the French word for shoe. So essentially, it's a depleted uranium dart. It's almost like a long.
Wow.
I'm talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm just talking
No,
about
I'm
a
talking-
slug
Do
from a
it.
shotgun.
No, I'm talking about the big Sabo round.
Yeah, so
that would definitely take out
That
the
would
grizzly
take out a
bear.
bear.
But Sabo
There-
means shoe, which
So
is.
it's
Well,
encased,
so- yes,
and when you shoot it,
correct.
it breaks out, and the slug comes out.
Correct.
Do they always have tracers in them, or is that just the military versions?
That's
Well,
probably
this is a shotgun slug,
that's
so there's no
probably-
tracer.
yeah.
in it.
That's
But
probably-
it's a polymer tip, and it's gonna put a 10-inch hole in something. I imagine it would harm a grizzly bear a great deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least I'd.
The tank round would definitively kill the grizzly bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying, yeah, someone says 12 gauge slug. Some people are saying 308. People are saying show it. This is YouTube. We
Nah.
can't. We can only talk about it.
Can't
But
be
to
done.
my right, there's some fancy stuff.
It's good
Oh, man,
stuff.
if only you could see. Actually, there was a photo. People post photos when they go on the show, and you can see them on Instagram.
Yeah.
Luke got me a flintlock pistol.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's not an FFL item. An FFL item, I think.
It's stunning. It should,
it's
we
like-
should be on display somewhere.
Yeah, it's not a regulated weapon, I
On
think.
screen.
From like the colonial days, you mean? Or the pirate
Yeah,
days? Sort of?
something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. I don't know how old it is. Oh, it's a replica. I
Yeah.
think.
All right, let's see what we got here. The Reaper Nation says, "Hey Tim, would you ever consider having Donut Operator on the show?" Yes, we would.
Standing invite.
Absolutely.
Too
Yeah,
busy.
he seems great, actually.
Yeah.
Kevin Robillard just posted a bunch of gorillas.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes, and we have a new shirt.
Oh,
This one's mostly for the skate park denizens. But if you go to timcast.com and click store, we have stickers and shirts that it's the Gadsden snake wearing a beanie on a skateboard, and it says, "Don't snake me, bro." So it's a play on, obviously, "Don't tread on me," and also "Don't tase me, bro." And it's "Don't snake me." So snake is a verb. In skateboarding or whatever skate park culture, everybody kind of waits their turn. So there will be like a rail, and one at a time people will take their turn, and you kind of just, I'm going to sit back. It's very anarchic. It's very anarchist. You're letting people sort of do their thing, but eventually someone just barges in and snakes you. It's when you're about to go and they just cut you off and go, and you're like, "Bro, don't snake me, dude." So we made shirts, and it's a little.
That is the one piece of
Snake.
swag I must have at some point
Yes.
someday.
So-
Like,
That-
I'm gonna get a bunch of the stickers.
Yeah.
But a lot, I posted it, and a bunch of skateboarders are hitting me up on Instagram, and they're like, "Yes, I want the shirt." Like, you're wearing in the skate park. Don't snake
Got
me,
the
bro.
beanie on. I love it. So
Yeah, because they do it, man. They do it.
The "Don't Tase Me, Bro" video is just one of a
Don't
kind.
tase me, bro.
One of a kind. Yeah.
Those were the days, huh?
Yep.
All right, let's see what we got here. Trek God says, "Tomorrow war. You forget that Pratt's generation would be useless to the present trying to prepare for a future war. Recall that the present still needs to fight." I saw the best meme ever. It's Chris Pratt from the Tomorrow War holding his gun, which is a short-barreled rifle with magnification on it. And they're going through like why someone would be using this weapon. And then it's like someone from the, I can't break it down for you perfectly, but it's like someone from the future comes to the past and goes to a gun store, and they're like, "We need weapons to fight a war." And they're like, "Okay, so I'd imagine you're going to want, like an AR-15, standard." No, I want a short-barreled rifle. Okay, so it's going to be what, a short range? Nope. He's like, or then he's like, "Okay, so you're going to want like a red dot?" Nope. Magnification. And they're like, "Huh? Okay, well, all right. So these things must be small and close." Nope, they're massive.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
And they move around so fast that you'd never actually be able to see them in those circular like magnification things because you got to line it up.
Magnification.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
paying close, but you know what really bothered me about that movie is the infinite bullets they had.
They
Oh,
did
yeah,
have, they
I
did
know.
they did not seem to have to reload
They
very
never
often. if ever.
reloaded.
See, this is why I really like
That's
Stargate
why.
SG-1. They use P90s, and they're often in a lot of close quarter situations, and they often are reloading.
Yeah.
And they actually explain P90s and the 50 round the magazine. I think
that tomorrow our producers are not going to be your biggest fans after tonight. But
you
might be bringing, or maybe bring a
on
massive attention.
consulting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
massive.
I think it really just is. It's like in The Dark Knight. What did Harvey Dent say? He is
the Batman.
Yeah.
That's filmed in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
So when he's talking to the guy in court, and then the guy's like, "I'm the real mastermind," whatever the guy's name is, a fall guy. Then Harvey Dent walks up to him and he pulls out the gun. It clicks, and then Harvey grabs the gun, disassembles it, and then he says, like, Chinese-made 28 caliber. If you want to assassinate a USD, I suggest you buy American. And then, I think he said 28 caliber or something. And I saw that, and before I knew anything about guns, it never meant anything to me. Then I rewatched it and I heard him say that, and I was like, 28? Is that what he said?
Huh.
I looked it up, and all I found were forums of people saying, like, what is this? Like, why would they do that?
That's funny.
And some people speculated the producers did it on purpose, like purposefully.
Like a 555 phone number.
No, like they knew gun people would make a thing of it.
Don't you also think with some of the movies that are on, let's say, the streaming platforms like Netflix and Amazon, that sometimes they're trying to get the content out like so fast that they don't put the same kind of time into things that they used to?
I think that's what happened with the Tomorrow War. That was a conclusion I reached because I watched it too, and I reached a lot of the same conclusions Tim did. And I was watching it, and I was like, I bet Tim is overanalyzing every single bit of this stupid movie, but at least Chris Pratt is in it. That's why I watched it.
That is true and correct.
Oh, I saw this some Roman show about the Romans, and they were like they were getting charged by the barbarians, and they were like, testudo, and they all went into their arrow protection testudo turtle form, where they're like,
Yeah, I like that.
but it's not how you handle a charge at all. You'd get wiped out if you were in testudo formation. So then the charge came, and they were like falling on top of their and all the comments like, what historian is on staff with this movie crew that told them a test?
So we've got a pretty tough question for you before we sign off.
I was surprised there wasn't one yet, but
no, there's a bunch of them. But I'm just
you're being very diplomatic and
curating
sifting
them.
through them. Thank you.
Yeah. But this one, of course, pertaining to Kyle Rittenhouse, and a lot of people want to know. They say that you've been accused of taking money from Kyle Rittenhouse, and they'd like to know if you have a response.
So that's completely untrue. And I'm just going to leave it at that because, there could be pending litigation about that, but that's completely 1,000% untrue and never do such a thing. And I wish nothing but the best for Kyle, and he's completely innocent and needs to be acquitted.
I do want to say one thing to a lot of people too that you need to understand, and I'll throw a reference to Carl Benjamin and Akila Hughes' lawsuit. Sargon of Akkad, you may know him. He got sued, and he kept his mouth shut about what was going on and let the courts handle it. Ultimately, he won. I'm not saying anything about this or whatever that case may be, but I think there's something to be said for people who say, I'm going to keep it quiet, we're going to let the courts figure things out, and for people who go on social media and start saying, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. Not to say anybody's right or wrong, but I think it's important that, especially in things like this, look, I'll just put it this way. I've got my fair share of litigation, and I never talk about it. And people try to drag me into it. You don't bring it up. It is a foolish move to get into that stuff publicly. Don't do it. But a lot of people were, of course, asking it, so we're going to save that one for last before we sign off. We don't shy away from the hard questions. I read people smack talking me. I try to as well because we want to keep it real, I guess. So everybody who watched and hanging out these Friday nights, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to this show, and become a member at timcast.com because, boy, are we expanding. The new website is so cool. I wish I could just put it up now because of how amazing it looks, but we're getting there. And I think we're going to have like 5 or 6, or I think we're going to have 6 writers, 6 reporters to start. It's going to be fantastic. So you can follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Timcast IRL. We're on TikTok,
we're so
Timcast
cool.
_IRL. And you can follow me personally at Timcast basically everywhere else. And we will have the Cast Castle vlog up tomorrow at 9 a.m. So I think this is the best episode ever. This is the best vlog we've ever done. It's the 4th of July special. We're on boats. There's animation in it. I'm super excited for this. Kent, who does all the editing work and everything, just hit this one out of the park. So definitely make sure you go to youtube.com/castcastle, subscribe to that. And tomorrow morning, you can watch our silly 4th of July adventure. We had a blast. We made ice cream and cheesecake, and we have throwing axes, and it's just all sorts of shenanigans. And we make fun of Seamus Coughlin of Freedom Tunes. Seamus, we love you. Did you want to shout anything out, John?
No, look, it was awesome to be here, of course. Please go to nclu.com. We need support to help people whose constitutional rights are being violated. We really, really do. So thank you for having me. It's great fun.
Right. If people want to get in touch with you, to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Sure. So on Twitter, I am CaliKidJMP. If they're interested in supporting the NCLU, they can go to nclu.com and they can reach out to the email address info@nclu.com, and we'll receive those.
It's really good talking to you, man. Thanks
This
for
was
coming.
awesome. Thank you so much.
You guys can follow me at iancrossland.net and hit me up at Ian Crossland on social media. Looking forward to talking to you.
Thank you guys all very much for hanging out on this Friday night instead of going and doing fun, crazy stuff. I know it's super hot, so stay safe. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter at Sour Patch Lids as I attempt to have more followers than Sour Patch Kids.
We definitely need to do a show on comics, video games, and culture. Because, like, I got so much to say about Tomorrow War.
Oh, I want to
We're
talk
gonna
about
go
Magic.
and games and D&D. We're planning on doing a D&D show for sure. A weekly D&D show is going to be a blast. We actually talked about this a while ago about finding a dungeon master to like help put together really interesting
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my generation.
But there's interesting things we can do with it in terms of politics, like having someone draw up a scenario pertaining to American political conflict, but in like a D&D kind of game. Tomorrow we're gonna go see Black Widow. Came out I think today. I think it was a midnight showing, and there's so much I'm gonna have to say about it. We got to put together a new podcast for culture and stuff too. So we got a lot coming. It's all thanks to all of you who are members at Timcast.com. The site is expanding rapidly, and everyone who signs up, when that money comes in, I just think about how many more people we're gonna hire to do awesome stuff. And so thank you very much. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.
Bye, guys.